Record. Good.
Now, without further ado,
A Jew.
Hello.
Oh. Eric, are you like Andy Richter?
oh God,
Are you the Andy Richter of the
place
show?
me up there, right?
Andy
No, it's
Richter.
like-
This guy's
oh, no,
way
not
more
Andy Richter.
talented and useful than Andy Richter.
Ed McMahon. No, Ed McMahon.
Are you kidding
The
me?
person who announces, or maybe the guy who announces that used to announce for
The
SNL.
Price is Right.
Yes. For
I was
SNL.
thinking The Price is Right.
Oh,
But then the camera.
Eric is way more useful than everyone you just mentioned,
that is correct.
especially Andy Richter.
Yeah.
Chaim.
It was Jerusalem Day today, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it all. We got to talk about Memorial Day. Got to talk about Jerusalem Day, and we got to talk about another day. We'll save that a little bit later, but we'll give you a hint as to it now. We won't say why we're bringing this up right now, but I want to talk about the topic of age.
Yes.
And, sometimes I feel like I'm getting old just because of a number, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I look at people from the past
Yes.
and something has happened to mankind.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than harp on it, could we maybe just show it, Greg, if you could please find a clip.
Oh.
It's called The Bob Newhart Show, please, circa 1973.
Okay.
Any clip from the Bob Newhart Show will do. I'll set once you play the clip, you can play it for like 10, 20 seconds even.
Could it be
That's
just even the intro of the show?
Maybe not the intro, maybe some part of the show. Like
so they have like season 1, episode 1.
That's fine. Any season will do.
Yeah.
Folks, you have to witness this.
This is 1972.
Is to change a typewriter ribbon these days.
Any fool can do that. It's easy. There you go.
Why, thanks, fool, but I was trying to put it in.
Then you're going to have to get an atomic scientist. I just extract them. Hi, Bob. Hi, Jerry.
Oh, gee, Bob, your aftershave smells like eau de garage.
I was filling my car at one of those self-service gas stations. I got gasoline all over me. So very stylish.
You know, I was trying to save some money. It said buy 9 gallons and the 10th is on us.
Well,
Okay,
the
that'll
10th
do.
is on you.
That'll do.
Sir,
Okay, so Bob Newhart, right? The gentleman who walked in with the suit with the stain on his right arm. He's playing a 40-year-old gentleman.
43. Yep.
Well,
In this thing.
right. No, he's 43 in real life, but he's
Yeah, yeah,
playing a 40-year-old.
Yeah.
Because I remember I was just watching an episode of his 40th birthday.
Hmm.
And his secretary over there
Hmm.
is 29.
Unbelievable.
And apparently this is normal. This is what people looked like back in the day. That 29-year-old looks like she's old enough to be my grandmother's grandmother.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what happened to mankind, but
Frank, to what you're saying, remember, so you didn't go through this, neither did you, Eric, but on the way to America, my parents and I went through Austria and Italy. And in Italy, we lived in a place called Ladispoli. So somebody posted a video of people in Ladispoli. We were there in 87. This is people in 1989. You see this guy? Actually, you see this guy right here? He's on the thumbnail. You can quickly see him.
the younger looking gentleman.
Yeah, just one second. I'm gonna find you. Not this guy, but there's a different guy. I'm not gonna play the audios because then we'll get into the whole audio thing. And
He's 11, right?
It's not 11,
No.
but I'll show you. I mean, like, it could be any of these. How old do you think this guy is?
This guy, I'd say, I mean, back then, he's probably 21, right?
He's 22 years old.
22. Okay, yeah. Now he looks like he's in
Looks
his
like-
mid 40s.
Mid 30s, I'd say, like 35, 36. Yeah, actually,
Yeah. Folks, they apparently haven't let our generation reach adolescence, get
Yeah.
past adolescence. Like we're stuck in a perpetual
yeah, yeah.
adolescence. Otherwise, I was supposed to look like Bob Newhart. I'm 44. I'm supposed to look like that guy that you just saw in the clip.
But can I tell you something, Frank? This is unfortunately endemic to America because every time I go to Israel and I meet guys who are guys who are our age who are like these reservists in the IDF, they look way older than us, and they seem way older than us, more mature than us. Doesn't matter. I mean, most of the guys are married, tend to be married.
I don't
You
know. They
know.
look like kids to me.
Dude, the guys that were 44 do not look like kids to me. They do not look like kids to me. Not only that, some of these guys I know, they're like winemakers, and they meet me, and they are shocked to find out that I'm their age.
Oh, the winos, they do look older.
Not
You're right.
just the winos. It's not just the
Dries them up.
winos.
The wine dries you up.
It's everybody. It's everybody. Every Israeli I've met who's my age is shocked to find out that I am my age. They think I'm like maximum 30, 28. It's so something happens, depending on where you live.
We're all like Ralph Macchio. We're gonna reach puberty in our late 80s.
Yeah.
Like he did. Wow. Anyway, so I just wanted to mention that I was watching Bob Newhart because I love Bob Newhart.
Well, Frank, yeah.
But and then a side benefit was that it's like, wow, I'm much younger. I mean,
Yes.
it's stunning. I mean, those guys were in Korea, so we have to take that into account. You know what I mean? So
Well, to what you're saying, Frank, it's crazy that you brought this up because the other day I was literally like getting ready for I was like, whatever, I was pouring alcohol at a wedding. So I'm getting ready for this thing and I'm looking in the mirror and I see like ear hair, nose hair, just certain things that I didn't see, let's say when I was 30 or 25. So I'm asking a question. and I kind of answered my own question in my
It
head.
was there before. You just didn't notice it.
Maybe, but it's funny to me how Hashem just did this whole thing where he literally, created life. And I don't want to sound morbid, but I'm just describing biology right now. He created life in such a way that the minute they say the minute you're born is the minute you start like dying, but it's not actually true. You're on an upward trajectory until you're like 20 or 25, or kind of maybe 30, late 20s. And then from there, you go on a, so to speak, downward trajectory. Despite all the stuff, you can go to the gym, you can mitigate things, they say like guys are stronger, physically stronger when they're like in their late 30s, but not as fast, let's say, like athletes. But generally speaking, it's like this, and then it just goes like this. So I'm thinking to myself, at first my question was, it's funny that Hashem did that, right? Funny. Funny
Hilarious.
how? Yeah, yeah. But then I thought back
Hilarious.
that and you could maybe, if you want, go into this more. There's this whole idea in the Torah or in our sages comment that when Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve were created, they were basically formed as roughly 20-year-olds,
22
22-year-olds, right? So that's like the optimal age for man to
to
you
do
know,
everything
to do
for
everything, to
everything,
exist, to get married, to have kids, to I don't know, develop
to
something,
function, to think, to do
yeah,
anything.
yeah. So they say everything after that is kind of like, and it's interesting because when we think about, for example, some of the greatest sages in Judaism, a lot of them wrote, like, let's say they were geniuses, right? Like Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, we just had his anniversary of his passing. So other rabbis, they wrote some of their best work, like I don't know, 17, 18, and then they passed away and then, continued writing into their 20s, and then they passed away at like 36, 37. They left the world.
Yeah.
Look at Mozart, Lahavdil, right? Same thing with these guys, 5-year-old, I don't know, 6-year-old writes his first thing as a 6-year-old, goes into like, until he's like 20, continues writing, but like the brunt of the stuff was in the teens and the 20s. And then the guy, I think Mozart, how old was he when he passed away? I think he was also in his 30s,
20, 28, something like that.
or maybe a little bit older.
I don't think he made it to 30. I'm not sure.
Uh, it's possible he did not.
Max would know.
He was 35. He was 35.
35.
Yeah.
35? You made
He
it
was
to
35.
35.
Yeah, he made it to 35. But he was like very sick towards the end. A couple of years he was sick. Um, yeah, so it looks like, people talk about, like life expectancy has gone up uh over, the last however many decades. Interesting, speaking of the Torah, if you look in the Torah, the early people that existed in the Torah lived till, for hundreds of years. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden that number plummeted. It is, the explanation goes that we lost because it was the spirituality is kind of what kept them going. The spiritual level is what kept them going all those years. So then, you had what's called decline of generations, your data dorot spiritually, and the thing just plummeted, right? And that manifested itself, interestingly enough, in, you know, people dying early because of health problems. Like the health problems around the world were just a manifestation of the spiritual decline collectively of man. So now here's the question. The fact that
Apparently
it's going, well,
there
the
was no
fact,
sickness
yeah.
until Jacob's lifetime.
Correct. So here's my question. Now that it's the so-called life expectancy, at least age-wise, is I guess has gone up, is the spirituality technically going up, or will it go up? Or is it just that we've devised these like masks or prolonging of life expectancy, but it's not really quality of life, it's just length of life. You have some people who are living the last 20 years or 10 years of their life, just like Eric and I were just talking about this, people just like live with conditions, starting with like age, let's say 70, they have a condition and they just live from like 70 until like, 80, 85, or maybe 90 with this nagging whatever. It's not really quality.
Okay.
Um, I don't know. It's an interesting thought.
So the question is,
The question is, yeah, Hashem gave us this wonderful thing where it's like, oh, why did I even say that about the hairs and all that stuff? Because it made me think in general about how all, again, not to sound morbid, literally all the weird, rare conditions that people can get, and literally out of nowhere for no, it's not like a person's eating crap. It's not even like a person took this, the shots. It's just like, you keep hearing about like a person just got this stuff, you know, at some point in life, or maybe they were born with some genetic something. And I'm thinking, like, God did that? All these things that can go wrong. It's like you're driving a car and your engine can fall out. At least with the car, you can complain to the guy who made the car. You can really complain to the company. They may do a recall. If something goes wrong here, you can complain to Hashem. Hashem's not going to do a recall. You got to deal with it. You're screwed. Frank doesn't like this line of thinking.
No, no. So no, I'm saying I'm trying to hear the question.
The question is, why would he do it? There is an explanation as to why would he do, or there's not a good one maybe, but there are various explanations as to why he installed the program called death. There are explanations. We don't like them, but there are explanations.
Yeah,
But the whole like freak, just conditions that people can get and just something could just snap at any moment, that's my problem.
okay. So uh, it came. What you're describing began to manifest around the time of Jacob. And it was that because before that, people would just be in prime condition at their peak youth, looking like, and then they would just drop dead. There was just a limitation. It was kind of like a Blade Runner. If you think about it, it was a lot like Blade Runner. You want to play that clip about Tears in the Rain? There's Sovietism.
I was going to make like a tally 80s reference one.
I've already made 80s references. So
Number one.
you're off already. All right, you're already off. I know I've made more 80s references. Can you find Rutger Hauer Tears in the Rain? It's a short thing. I just saw it today. The clip. I don't know, it just randomly appeared in my feed as if I'm a farm animal in my feed. We got to talk about feed.
And here comes Nat. This is my favorite part.
Can you say something?
On mute?
I just wanted to see if there was an echo if I cover it.
Echo.
Gentlemen, should I play the clip?
Yes, sir. Please, please.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die.
that always hit me in the feels, that scene. But
You guys should check out the real quick the soundtrack for this movie by Vangelis.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Incredible.
yeah.
Anyway,
So it was kind of like that until folks in the Torah tradition, right? We're told we've been made to understand, right? And I say
right.
that
Explain
just
to us.
it's been explained to us. We received the tradition that that until Jacob's lifetime, people didn't get old, they didn't get sick, they just died when their time was up. It was
Yeah.
preordained,
Yeah.
and it was kind of like that. I don't know if it was as dramatic. I don't know if there was a dove that floated away the moment the person's soul went, and you know. But so what was the point of God introducing the whole idea of aging? You know, where your body begins to look older and feel older and experience. It was about humility. It was about teaching um, man to be humble, also giving man clues as to and reminders as to who he was and where he was going. So when a person started getting older and their hair started graying and their eyes started dimming and things of that nature, um, it reminded the person that to be humble, that they're not God, and that their time was coming to an end, right? And that they had to prepare themselves to to deal with the consequences of their actions in life. So and to present themselves before their maker, because before that people didn't necessarily have to do that. They didn't have any natural reminders of that. They um, might have had those thoughts because they were introduced to concepts, but there was nothing necessarily built into their body, into their physical nature that would remind them to do so. That's how it was explained to me. Why during Jacob's time and not before? I'm not entirely sure.
Why during Jacob's time? I mean, it seems to me this is there any connection with Asaph? It almost seems like, because
I was thinking that.
Asaph
I was,
probably brought in so much physicality into the world where Hashem was like, "Oh, you want physicality? I'll give you physicality."
you
You know?
see, yeah, because Asav, I was literally thinking that as you said it. It's funny. Asav was blessed with every kind of physical blessing and power, like physical strength, agility, mental genius, every kind of material blessing that a person can have, the best kind of body, the smartest mind, also every talent that a person can have. And then he ended up using it for terrible things.
Yeah.
And he, not a very humble person, not a very, very humble person. So I think it's possible. This is just us speculating, but it doesn't make sense that God may have introduced uh, physical limitations and humbling reminders of what we are and where we're going,
Yeah.
to offset the example of Asav
Yeah.
and the kind of energy that he brought to the world.
But
So
it's
yeah,
interesting. It's
yeah.
interesting because if you look at a lot of people in the sports world today, uh, they say like, athletes, and you can notice it, like there's athletes who are playing these very, very physical sports, especially in America, well into their, late 30s and even mid 40s, early 40s, mid 40s. You're like Tom Brady, you
Yeah.
have like this guy Yager. Yarmir Yager is playing. I mean, granted, he doesn't play in the NHL anymore. He plays back in Czech Republic, but he's like 53. and he's still playing with like dudes who are like half his age, even less.
Yeah.
And it's happening a lot. Like LeBron James, not that I'm a fan, but he's like 40, 41. A lot of these guys, that was like the twilight. Some of these guys are like still high octane level, careers at that age. If you're an NFL team and you decide to get a quarterback from another team who's like 37, 38, you're getting the spring chicken still. You're still getting his good years. That's the thought process.
Yeah.
And it's a very physical sport, to say the least.
Well,
Um,
it shouldn't be that surprising because for most of human history, life was very, very, very physically taxing.
mhm,
Like you had to people had to function physically for a long time.
yeah,
If you were a farmer, right, you had to be like, I'm not saying that our elite athletes
yeah,
are on par with ancient farmers, but I don't think it was very far apart. Meaning like an ancient farmer, meaning even from 150 years ago, right, had to be, you know, probably as fit as some of our best athletes
yeah,
just to live, just to get through the day. Because, unless you had a work crew, unless you had like a whole bunch of slaves or a whole bunch of like employees or whatever, right?
mm,
Um, but if you were a person who had to take care, most people had to do things themselves, right? Um, you had to be physically able. So the average man was much stronger just because you had to be. Like, you know what I mean? Like you were involved in physical acts to get water, to grow food, to survive, just to walk from one place to another. You were in a horse and buggy, even, right? And if one of the wheels on the buggy, like those things weighed a lot, like and securing them, like your fingers had to be like, we're all like little hobbits and children compared to like just the basic strength of like the average 80-year-old woman from 100 years ago.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, so it doesn't shock me that if a person stays active, that they can still function
yeah.
like even into their 40s, because I mean,
Frank, can I show the folks
until
at home?
recently we all
Yeah.
had to.
Can I show the folks at home like a clip? They were talking about I mean it's just relatively short, we don't have to show the whole thing. The history of smoking in the NHL. I wanted to look at two things, just hear what
Or
they're
in
talking
doctors'
about.
offices,
Smoking in
right?
doctor's
Like,
offices?
I mean, like you were saying, an 80-year-old woman 100 years ago, or you showed that video early on with the guy who was 21, who looked like he was 40,
Yeah,
right? So you had to be a little bit stronger, but what's the trade-off? Is it youth? Because people weren't living as long and a lot,
yeah,
50 years ago, and I don't want to say it's penicillin.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, they were tough as nails,
yeah,
but they aged real fast.
yeah,
And once they hit like a certain level, it was all down. It was like Willy
yeah.
Wonka,
And
right?
then
The three
yeah,
grandfathers that are just in the bed, can't move,
yeah.
and then suddenly chocolate.
Okay, can I just respond to what he said? And this is all speculation on my part. We've all been fed this line that, oh, back in the days, the average lifespan of a man was 38. When you're 38, you were dead already, or something like that. You didn't really if you were 50, you were considered an ancient. Um, I do not believe this. I'm just telling you personally. I'm just basing this on my pure intuition. It sounds like horseshit to me completely. First of all, how would they get that data? That's number one. Were you there? You were there like with the census crew, just like keeping track of the average lifespan of people. I don't believe that horseshit that the average lifespan was shorter. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, I do think that when they started playing around with viruses, like the Spanish flu and
yeah,
and and things of that nature, when biological sciences started coming into the modern age, I think that they understood how to spread viruses.
Yeah.
I think as soon as plagues were kind of understood as to how they spread, I think they were used as a weapon by the same elite that tried to kill us on during with COVID and the vaccines. Okay, I would say this started with around the mid to late 1700s, where people began to kind of have some comprehension, uh, not of not publicly, but like the in terms of knowledge, scientific knowledge, it was always um, the elite had an understanding of it before uh, information became available to the public.
Yeah.
There's always like a 50-year gap or maybe
Yeah.
100 years
Yeah.
between what the elite knew and what the general public gets to know about, maybe 100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think. And I don't think that rural man died at 38 on average. I don't think that. I think that if they lived in a place where they can farm successfully, and have a peaceful life, some kind of village life, I think that they had decent lifespans, just like we would now, if not longer. Okay, because they weren't um, exposed, they weren't bombarded with chemicals, they weren't bombarded with vaccines and all sorts of paint thinners and things of that nature. Okay, and they just lived a normal life, and if they didn't die um, from violence, they probably lived a regular long life.
Yeah.
Okay, look at people of Okinawa, look at the people of Sardinia, look at the people who live in the mountains of Georgia. So I'm sorry, but I really feel like that whole line of the average age of man was 38 or 40.
Yeah.
Horseshit.
Well, Frank, I'm looking at like they have these life expectancy in America starting from the year 1900. This is just let's just for argument's sake say
Yeah.
they were saying for men it was 1900 it was 46, and then it went up to it kind of stayed steady. I mean, this is what it says until like 1909 went to 50, and then basically it went up to 52 to 1915, and then I guess World War One hit, and then it says here it plummeted. It went from like 49 to like 36 in 1918, and also we had, I guess, Spanish flu. I think it was around that time, if I'm not
The
mistaken.
depression.
Yeah.
This is like it was.
So then 1919 it shot up to 53. In the 20s it was almost 60, and in the late 30s it went up to like the 60s, and then in the mid 50s it was like pretty steady at like 67. It hasn't really, like today it's basically 70 what, mid 70s, late 70s for men. So it's
A
gone
lot
up.
of it is diet. A
A lot
lot
of it
of
is
it is
diet, yeah.
how close people were living next to each other.
Yeah.
And to animals.
Yeah.
Right. You used to have a farm, like you're saying. Running water was a problem. You'd have to go to a well and find that dude who had the two metal pipes that said your water is over here 15 feet or whatever it is. I forgot
Yeah.
what those magicians are called.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have clean water now, right? If you're living in these massive super cities, clean water is a problem. Your life expectancy should go down. But if you were living on the land, your digestion was much better because you were eating clean. You were eating directly from the ground. You weren't adding crap to it, and your immune system should be able to handle everything that's around you, because you should only interact with things that are in your environment. In that, I've stepped away from like allopathic medicine to like a totally green naturopathic approach, and it's really I find it sobering, because a lot of the times we're rushing to get that new pill, the new shot, the new venom that's going to make me feel skinny, when everything that's affecting your immune system is actually coming from the world around you. So like if you go to like those obituaries where people were dying slowly, you'd have to look at, are they living close to each other now in proximity? to a city, or a Spanish flu coming around, is something like that being introduced into the environment. So yeah, that's where I was going with that. Get your immune system can be as amazing as you need it to be if you live outside and you have proper food and get some sunlight.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of the things we hear about is like a volcano went off and covered the sun for like 30 years. There was no sunlight. All the crops died, the animals died. Then because of the lack of vitamin D, people started getting sick.
Yeah.
And but barring some kind of catastrophic natural disaster which leads to widespread sickness, um, you know, in terms of population density, I'm not a person, I'm not about population control. I'm quite the opposite. But I'm against people living next to each other. Okay, that it's unnecessary to do that, right? Like, have as many people as you want, have as many children as you want. But if we have a system in the world where we have to, where it's like mandatory to live certain distance from each other, right? I think a lot of that wouldn't have happened. All these massive pandemics where people died by the hundreds of thousands and by the millions. And by the way, the data that we have, right? We only have reliable data from the 20th century, if you want to call that reliable. I just want to remind everyone, how do you think, like, people tell you crazy shit? You're like, wow, how do they know that? They don't. You're being fed a lot of lies. You're being fed a lot of speculation, and a lot of it is politically motivated. Like, how would they know really what life was like in Sweden 1,200 years ago?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's politically motivated stories that are told to you by your government employed teachers. Everybody has an agenda. Everybody has an agenda to make you see the world a certain way so that they can get you to cooperate to go along with their world view. Okay. So you have to understand that when you're hearing information about history, it's biased. Okay.
Yeah.
But it makes sense that man, if he wasn't dealing with natural disasters, if he just had a bit of farmland, grew his own stuff, did physical activity, was out in the sun, walked everywhere, wasn't sitting at home watching TV. Okay, he was a healthy person, and probably had the strength of an elite athlete, of what we call elite athletes now. And just because he didn't have mechanical convenience, right? Mechanical assistance, he had to do he had to compensate with his own physical strength. So his hands were stronger, his grip was stronger, his feet was stronger, his everything was stronger. His tendons were stronger. He's not necessarily, he wasn't bulky, but more of his muscle mass was used. He used more of his brain. Everything was utilized more. Okay. And we don't necessarily know, whether or not that they age faster. We look at guys from the 70s in their 40s, and they look like guys in their 60s, but they went through Korea and they were exposed to experimental chemicals, like the crap that they use to make their hair look like it's made of clay, right? That doesn't come from the old world. That came from some sort of a byproduct of nuclear waste or something like that. Okay. And that they turned into a product, and they, all their faces were glossy, and it was insane what the 20th century did to man. So we can't really say, well, look at our 20th century grandfathers and great grandfathers and say, oh, that was representative of the history of man. I'm sorry, no, it's probably very different than what the human experience is like for most of human history.
It's probably a lot of cocaine too in the 70s, if their face is
Yeah,
glistening.
all sorts of pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
All sorts of, you know what I mean? Like,
Gentlemen, let me show you something. I've shown this to Frank before. This is hockey players in in the 1967 season. These guys are like late 20s, average age of 28, let's say.
Folks, all this whole conversation was prompted because today's my 44th birthday.
Oh, yes, Mazel Tov. Happy
Time,
birthday, sir.
time.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you.
The music is suspect, but whatever. Look at these guys. Like, oh, oops.
No helmets.
Oh yeah, no helmets. This is the before helmets came in. Now let's skip to I want you to see their faces. They'll show their faces at some point. Yeah, there you go. This guy's like 28. This guy, if you remember Brett Hull, that's Bobby Hull, that's his father. But this is like, he's still, I don't know, 26 in this? Maybe 25, 24. Looks 40. Ridiculous. And you see the goalies, they don't have masks. And there's a piece of rubber flying at your head.
And these guys had jobs.
Yeah,
when the season was over.
Yeah. They had insurance jobs and like all kinds of stuff in the summer.
They worked at the mill.
Yeah, at the mill. Unless you're like, I don't know, Gordie Howe and you're getting paid like whatever. Everybody else had a job. Yeah, I was watching the movie. They produced a movie about, Rocket Richard, the guy who played for the Montreal Canadiens at this time, or in the 50s even. Actually, more in the 50s. The guy was like, yeah, you had to work in the summer. And there was a thing where like, he was like became like the highest paid player on the team in Montreal Canadiens, full of like stars. And he was like, wow. And he's like telling his wife, this is like a real life, they're depicting in the movie, oh, I won't have to work that stupid job anymore in sales, door to door in the summer. We can get an apartment or we can get a house or whatever it is.
Or farmers, like baseball.
Yeah.
Baseball was just full of early baseballs
Yeah.
from farmers.
Yeah.
Like who could play baseball? Like who even had the ability to play baseball? Only farmers did because they had enough room to make a baseball diamond. By the way, folks, I don't know. I don't think we bothered to introduce our good friend.
Yes, this is our friend Eric.
Our third guy just showed up randomly on our show, right? We completely, like we're just neglecting to.
Yes.
Like the three people that watched.
I think that's why
they didn't even explain this.
I think that's why he just walked away. He got upset. He's like, screw this.
No.
Okay.
This is our friend Eric. He's a good friend.
Yes.
Me and Eric happen to be in the same room because we're neighbors. He's a good friend of mine from Brooklyn. And just to prove that, here's my hand.
That is hilarious. That is very funny. Oh, so you're sitting like facing each other?
No, he's like we're sitting on the same table.
How do you not have an echo? Oh, because you have headphones.
There we go. Pound.
How is there no echo, Eric? You have headphones because you have headphones, right?
I have headphones and I have a mute button.
Nice.
So I'm trying to
smart.
We're working on it.
So when he's talking, I'm trying to hit my mute button so that there's no because there's a little bit of an echo.
Yeah. You can either, or you could just mute your sound. You can hear me fine. Doing. Oh, not the mic.
Not the mic, the computer sound.
Yeah. So far, it's been okay. It hasn't been terrible.
We'll fix it soon.
Yes. So.
And thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man. I just want to let folks know Eric knows a lot about stuff to the point where when he starts talking about what I mean by stuff, I mean, health, like or alternative medicine,
randomness,
random biology, random chemistry, random engineering, random anything to do with anything, how physically the world science works. And when he starts talking, again, like Frank and I talk about all the time, like people who managed to succeed in some field, right? So we say, the person got the memo, right? Hashem sent them the memo. So when Eric starts talking and he starts saying certain things about science or whatever it is, Frank and I feel like there's a memo that we didn't get. Apparently, most other people apparently did not get it either, even including doctors who went to medical school, but Eric got that memo.
I think I got the memo, but I didn't go through with medical school.
But I
Meanwhile,
think
I'm
no,
wearing
but I
a
think
shirt that completely,
what does it say?
it's
Powered by what?
powered by mitochondria and
Ah, that's
coffee.
funny. That's hilarious. Yeah, but I feel like if you had gone to medical school, you would not have focused
I
on
would
the
have gotten
things that
fired.
well, yeah, you would have just been like, dude, you know things. Either you know things you're not supposed to know, or there are things that hold by or believe that fly in the face of, a lot of modern medicine and things that are good or work, let's say, are effective. And so in a way, it's good you didn't do
I'm with
medical
you.
school.
And it's funny. I got off of Facebook during COVID, because a lot of what Dr. Zelenko, I mean, rest in peace, was putting out. I was throwing it on my wall and whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of students that I went to school with that also got bio degrees and ended up becoming doctors. And immediately is it a triple, double, quadruple blind test? This is nonsense. It's not real science, blah, blah, blah. And with all this stuff finally coming out, unfortunately it took 5 years and God knows how many deaths to finally reveal it. I was so tempted to get back on Facebook just to like reach out to these same schmucks and say, how are you professors of medicine now? And how do you live with yourself doing what you did to all of those patients and didn't even attempt to practice the science that you swore you would take a Hippocratic oath for? You literally broke everything because the hospital told you, here's what you must do and here's how we make money. That's the memo I got. The memo was you could do cash advance, or you can create something for yourself and have some dignity in what you're doing. If you have a hustle of cash advance, good for you.
Yeah.
I can't do it. There's a lot of people I know and they're balling. And I'm like, how do you sleep?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Eric, those people, even if you were to, so to speak, confront them about this question that you have, they're in a. I'm just gonna mute one of you guys because I'm getting an echo.
I'm muted.
Okay. Either they're gonna get you're not gonna get an admission because either these guys are so in their not echo chambers, but they're so in their bubble of semi-academia or even the professional bubble, they don't even see what's going on out there. They're not even looking at studies necessarily that will fly in the face of what they know. And even if they see stuff, even if they'll get access to stuff, they will never admit anything because that would be like total, psychological downfall on their end. We call it Shvira Sakalim. It's just gonna be like it's gonna be just completely like, they may as well just like hang him up today, tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And they can't.
Yeah. Uh,
He said sleep. And I want to say that I wanted to go to sleep before I even came to the show.
Thank
This is
you.
the sleepiest I've ever been during doing one of these podcasts. I don't know if it's coming through.
A little bit, Frank.
I need some.
Frank, I have a surefire way to wake you up.
Yeah.
We should talk about Jerusalem Day,
Mm.
but before we do that, or as a intro to that, I just want to say one thing. And you know what? I'm just gonna say the damn thing, okay? There's this idiot on Twitter. He has a show also on YouTube, Glenn Greenwald, all right?
Mm.
And he shows a screenshot. I could feel Frank waking up quickly.
Frank, do you want me to do a pressure point? I got like a good one on the wrist.
Here's a pressure point.
Can I make a coffee?
Пожалуйста.
Do you have
Yeah, I got you.
You have espresso machine?
You know what I also have? Goat milk.
No
Oh,
goat
snap.
milk.
Oh, snap.
I can make you some espresso.
You can?
Yeah, I have an espresso.
Bro, that would be a
Frank woke
great
up, woke
birthday
up just
gift.
at the notion of that. You
Yeah,
can?
yeah.
He's like, you can? Ah!
Truly?
That's like a superpower to me.
Yes.
People who know how to make espresso,
Yes.
that's amazing to me.
Yeah, yeah.
His wife puts lemon zest.
I have an
Oh,
Italian
snap.
wife.
Well, yeah, she's
so-
yeah. That's it's
It's
not
the best
espresso with no lemon zest.
It's literally like
Pamperi poopy.
after she
Peter.
made me that espresso, like I don't want to drink espresso any other way now. He's not gonna be able to do it, which is fine, you know.
Yeah.
No, it's fine, dude. I really appreciate this. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Can I show the folks at home Peter
Dude,
speaking Italian?
I drank a freaking Celsius. It didn't work.
Celsius is El Garbage. And by the way, folks, don't drink Celsius. Drink Fame Soda from Canada. My partner and I distribute it. I don't have a can here,
Where
unfortunately.
could we buy it, Greg?
Where can you buy it? You can buy it you can buy it in 20 locations in the Rockland County area, and then a couple of locations in the Bergen County area, and Key Food in Mill Basin.
Wow.
And also Cafe Dagan in Cafe Dagan in Mill Basin, and also what's the other place? Right next to it is a place called Bagel something. There's a bagel place, kosher place right next to Cafe Dagan.
Folks, Key Food that's crazy.
Key Food in Mill Basin.
Key Food, that's such a Brooklyn.
It's very Brooklyn.
Specifically New York.
But there's a bunch of them apparently, and like there's a few in Connecticut I found out. And
Key Food, yeah. That's the Northeast thing. I don't know if
I did
anybody
not know
else
that.
knows about it.
Yes. Here, I want to show the folks at home this.
Boy, you know, I've always wanted to come in here. And now that I got a mustache, the timing feels right.
Wow, all this stuff looks pretty good. Can we get some salami and...
Brian, let me handle this. Scusi, babida boopy?
Che cosa? Peter, what are you doing?
Speaking Italian. Babida boopy? Babida boopida babida babida.
Peter, you can't speak Italian just because you have a mustache.
Boopity bapa. Bopa bibi bopa bapa bibi bapa.
Tu sei un pazzo, va vedete qui!
Bibi bapa.
Sono stanco di te, ti do in pugno nella
Bibi,
testa!
bibi,
Ti uccido con
bibi,
questa
bibi,
carne!
Yeah, I never knew what that guy said, the Italian guy. You know, now we know.
Pazzo means crazy,
Yeah,
you know. Pazzo
yeah,
means crazy.
yeah. That's what- oh man.
Yeah, I gotta wake up. But
Yeah.
dude, let me just tell you
Yeah.
something.
I'll tell you this.
I want to tell you this. Oh,
I was gonna mention this whole thing about this idiot.
I wanted to say something. We're gonna talk about the idiot. And but I want to say something semi-positive.
Okay.
You have to have some level of positivity in order to appreciate this.
Yes.
Like Groypers would never be able to understand how incredible this is. So today's Memorial Day, where we're supposed to remember the American servicemen and women who died protecting this country or fighting for its freedom or defending it. And we have to do that in this episode.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this year, it overlaps with Jerusalem Day. Correct?
Yeah, correct. Literally the same day. Yeah.
But does it happen every year as this?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
So no. Right. So I'm not gonna do the lemon pledge lady right now. It's inappropriate, Greg. Okay.
Lemon pledge.
It's okay. That's where my mind went to, but I stopped myself.
Mr. No. I go there.
Yeah. But right. So a lot of people will be like, oh, you know, there's a lot of people right now, or they're not real people, they're Qatari paid bot armies who have a big problem with the fact that we would memorialize the time when Israeli soldiers sacrificed themselves to conquer Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And to give it back to the Jewish people for the first time in 2,000 years, right? So you know, what is this? I will pass on the strawberries.
Oh, pass.
Yes, I will. Okay. But I want to say I appreciate the offer. So basically,
Ungrateful.
Yeah. So Jerusalem Day is also a memorial day for Israeli soldiers, especially those who died and who to reclaim Jerusalem, which is the eternal capital of the Jewish people. Okay. To me, I think that's a very profound. The fact that it overlaps with Memorial Day, right? I think is a profound lesson for Americans, and for Jews both in America and in Israel. And I think it's something. It happened because God wants to show us that there's a connection, that there's a deep connection between Americans, non-Jews. I'm talking about American Christians, or just Americans, and Jews, and especially Jews in Israel.
Yeah.
Okay, because it doesn't happen every year, right? Jerusalem Day is not. Jerusalem Day is celebrated on the Hebrew calendar, the Torah Hebrew calendar, okay, which is a lunar calendar, and it doesn't sync perfectly with the secular solar calendar that Americans follow, right? But every 19 years, it overlaps. Okay, so it doesn't happen that Jerusalem Day and Memorial Day are on the same day every year, but this year, especially, there's a lot of um, there's a lot of signs and wonders that God has been sending to us. This is just one of them, but there's a lot of reminders that God sends to us that Israel and America are spiritually connected. As if you couldn't realize that already. Most Americans, they like that fact. Some people, it drives them crazy. They want to, they want to create as big a rift between America and Israel as possible.
Yeah.
Because they hate Jews. They really actually hate America as well.
Yeah.
You pretend to be,
America
people
first,
who say America first.
Yeah.
Folks, I just want to point something out. A lot of the people who say America first and then they hate Israel are National Socialists.
Yeah.
How can you can't be a National Socialist and an American patriot?
Yeah.
Only an idiot can think that you can be a National Socialist and an American patriot. National Socialists hate the founding fathers.
Yeah.
They hate everything that they stood for.
Yeah.
Okay. So when they say that they're American patriots, they're only saying that they're patriots if
in a xenophobic sense.
it that's just part of it. Yeah, in a xenophobic sense, but only if America embraces their fucked up mentality.
Yeah.
They're not real patriots.
Yeah.
Okay? They hate America. They're liars.
You know
I
what's
don't know if
crazy?
that's shocking to you, but they're liars.
You know what's crazy to me is that it looks like both they and the leftists, the LGBT, like, well, it's not really LGBT, the so-called woke left crowd, the woke right and the woke left, it seems like they both don't realize that Islam will come to get them. It's almost like they just want to use it. I guess the thinking is, well, at least in the woke right, they're thinking Islam, they want to use Islam to get us, right? And then when Islam was done with them, they will defeat Islam. The woke left, I don't know what the hell they're thinking. The woke right thinks that we're going to defeat Islam. We're going to, just like we went into Iraq, Afghanistan, all that stuff. We're going to, it's going to be like Put Locker. We'll handle them. But the woke left doesn't even think. I don't know what the hell.
Greg, I got something that'll knock your socks off.
I'm not even wearing socks. So I don't know. They nothing to
Well,
knock off.
if you were wearing them, they'd be knocked off.
Mhm.
Sir, you're goddamn amazing.
Thank you for blasphemy.
Dude, this guy's well.
Yeah, folks, we just let the
I know.
second thing we just want to tell you about Eric is that he has seemingly figured it out. Whatever it is, he's figured it out. Frank and I,
The man is blessed by God.
Frank and I have not.
Right, 100%. Um, he does life better in every way. Um, and somehow is just blessed by Hashem. And he's gonna be my rabbi, by the way.
Nice. He's gonna be your rabbi?
That's a big
It's a big ask there.
He's entered a rabbinical program
when it starts.
right? So it's hard for me. We've talked about why it's difficult for me to have a rabbi, but I've designated him as my rabbi, even though I'm older than him, and
he knows more.
Dude,
I know more ADD stuff.
No, you don't.
But he's gonna know, like, solid Jewish law and how to fulfill mitzvahs. He's gonna have like real solid
Actually,
knowledge.
Frank may have a point. I'll only not to bash you, Frank, but there was a moment I was at Frank's for Passover at Eric's also, and so Frank and I are getting in the car, and we're talking about things that are what's called, there's a term for something that is like, I literally translate directly, very leaven, like leavened, or literally not ever for Passover. It's called chametz gamur. There, you could have, like, for example, you could have toothpaste that's not kosher for Passover, but it's not chametz. It's just toothpaste that doesn't have a certification code for Passover. And then you could have a piece of bread. So a piece of bread, it's chametz gamur. It's actually like chametz. So we got in the car and I said something, and I'm like, that's not chametz gamur. And Frank kind of laughed. I'm like, why are you laughing? I'm like, that's a term. And then I looked it up and I showed it to him. He's like, oh, how about that?
I've been trying to tell you, I don't know nothing.
No, Frank doesn't know nothing. It's
I understand hashkafa.
Frank understands the world better than most people. Frank understands Jewish philosophy better than most people. Frank knows about certain things, even I would use the word obscure things, but they're not really obscure. Things is better than most people. Again, I always say this, and I'm not saying it's to blow smoke up your butt, Frank. The only other person I've heard who's able to take really complex things and just distill them down to something simple is Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson is not Jewish, and millions of people listen to him. So,
can I pull a great Vicini for a second?
The hell's
Jordan
that?
Peterson, moron. Just kidding. Just kidding. No. He's actually a very, very intelligent man. Who
I
just wanted to do Princess Bride for a second.
Oh, okay.
And
a Canuck, yes.
I won't hold that against him.
I saw the guy who does Inconceivable. I told you guys I saw him on the streets. I don't know why I didn't open my window and just yell out Inconceivable.
The great Vicini
I'm so shocked.
Was a better man than the actor who played him.
Yeah. I felt bad for Jordan Peterson. I saw a clip of him.
Never go up against a Sicilian when life is on the line.
You mean the black people of Italy?
No, that's what he says in the movie. Oh. He's like, you never go up against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
Yeah.
I think he said, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But the point of all of this, folks, was to show you that he prepared this wonderful espresso for me.
Yeah.
He's just so nice.
Yeah.
He does it, and he's such a nice person.
Thank you. I don't have any lemon.
Dude, I wouldn't dream of. This is amazing. This is espresso, folks.
Enjoy.
You know who I envy? People who can do that, make that, and also people who could take those coffee pods and put them in that pod thing.
I can't do that.
I can't do that either. My sister's like an expert at it. I'm like, I don't know what the hell.
The Keurig, the
little, the little thing. I just look at that thing and I see what is it? Which one is it? C3PO, R2D2? What's the small one? Who's the small one?
R2D2.
Yeah, I just see like R2. It goes. I'm like, how do I make coffee and a thing that goes?
Yeah. Anyway, he's a good guy, Eric. He's a very, very nice man. Not just because he made me coffee.
You sounded like Burt Reynolds. Eric, it's a good guy.
Good guy. Yeah,
Good
good
guy.
guy.
Makes espresso. It's a good
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. It's funny. Big hat. Yeah.
He wears a funny hat.
Yeah.
Funny beard. Good guy.
Good guy. Yeah.
It's funny,
So
if you go to some of these countries, they don't actually have, like, that's what they drink, like Italy, France. They don't have what we call Americano. I mean, if you order one,
I love Americano. I
they
love
may make it
Americano,
for
by the
you.
way.
Yeah,
I love
no,
it.
so they may make it for you. In Israel, they call it cafe afuch, upside down coffee.
Lasciatemi cantare.
Yeah,
Na,
nice.
na, na,
Dude,
na,
there's a
na,
guy
na,
in my
na.
minion, a Russian-speaking, religious guy who became religious later in life. He quite literally is a doppelganger for Adriano Celentano,
Yes, but I
the
was singing
Italian singer.
I was singing
I
Tutto
know,
Catonia,
I
La
know, I know.
Italiana.
But that reminded me. I came up and I told the guy, I'm like, did anybody ever tell you look like Celentano? He's like, yes. You're not the first person to tell me this.
Actually, um, we have a mutual friend. Uh, we have a friend named Natalie who had a roommate. We're not going to say names, right?
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
And her roommate's father is a friend of my cousin, and his name is Misha, but we call him Celentano
That's
because
funny.
he looked just like Adriano Celentano.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're talking about the same guy. Is his name Misha? Because he's a real character.
It, how old is this person?
I would say he's in his early 60s by now.
Where does he live?
Hard to know now.
Yeah, he kind of, he's an enigmatic type of gentleman.
This guy became religious and he lives in
Oh no.
in
Oh no,
Jersey.
no, no.
Okay.
No. No, I don't. Is he married to a lady named Ballerina? No.
Who?
Celentano has been on and off with this lady who he calls Ballerina
Ballerina?
for like
I
20
thought he was on and off with this girl called Susanna, like the song, like his song.
No.
Susanna.
No. We're not talking about the same guy.
This is, I'll show you guys who. You know, it's funny, like
The guy that I'm talking about,
yeah,
when early, like right when communism ended,
yeah.
he was one of the first people to take Hasidic guys from Brooklyn toward the Kvarim in Ukraine.
That's a smart business move.
That was and he was telling me stories
This is
about yeah, he was telling me stories about like how the Ukrainians reacted to seeing Hasidic guys, because some of them haven't seen any Hasidic guys for 100 years, because you weren't allowed to be religious in communist Russia.
Yep.
Right, like before the fall, before the Russian Revolution, you would see you might be able to see a Hasidic Jewish guy, right, in Ukraine and in the Soviet area, but after that you wouldn't. Okay, so when they came back and they were wearing the whole getup, Ukrainians they had no idea what they were looking at. They're like, "What is this?" He says, "Они смотрели на них как инопланетяне," like they're from like literal aliens from another planet. He goes, "They're Scottish." He would tell them that they're Scottish.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was telling me all these stories. So.
Yeah. Yeah. No, listen,
without a beverage.
I have speaking of Italy, well, this is ripped off.
Greg, folks, the folks at home, Greg is scared to go get a beverage because he's worried about interacting with.
Oh, I'm not scared. Oh, you know what? I will go do that now that you said that, and I will go do that because I'll show you why when I go.
Before you do that, let me go pee, and then you discuss with Eric.
I'll just keep Eric entertained, or maybe
yes, and then I'll return, and then I'll take over.
I had an idea with holding music. Oh, thank you for pressing the mute button.
With holding music.
I'll show you. If it allows me to, I have to prove that I'm not a robot.
It's so crazy, man. Like, there's somebody on Twitter responded to me. I wrote a comment about this whole situation within Israel, and somebody wrote something like, "Do you have any proof of this?" Pa 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 pa. And then I look at the profile that responded to me. It's like it's clearly a bot. Oops.
Yeah.
And I said, "Do you have proof you're not a bot?" I just wrote that like 2 seconds ago.
So here's what I was gonna share.
Let's see. Hold music and on hold music. 1 hour of best music on hold. This is like TD Bank.
It feels like it, right? What's this? What's the next song?
Oh, you gotta. Oh, can you do optimize for video sharing? I don't know why it doesn't.
Zochenweh.
Oh, what the heck? Why is it not? Can you hear this okay?
Yes.
Oh, this. That's hilarious.
Yeah, there's a few songs in there.
Yeah. Yo, honestly, this doesn't even sound like the TD Bank. This sounds more like when I went to like the Plaza Hotel.
This is the
very nice.
perfect music if you're DJing a wedding and you have to do cocktail hour.
Cocktail hour, yes.
Pop this on, you're good.
Yes. Non-Jewish wedding. I don't know. Yeah, this is way better than TD Bank.
So this is holding music we found on you.
Yes. Yes.
Hold music.
I don't know. It's good. It's good stuff. Good stuff.
And plenty of non-Jewish weddings.
Yes.
Sounds like a damn traffic jam.
I went to a
kidding,
wedding
man.
of my cousin Eric. You know my cousin Igor, right?
Indeed.
So he's religious. So his younger brother is not, but he married Brooke married a Jewish girl. So I went to the wedding in the DC area back in February. And so, his brother is really accommodating, like super accommodating. So he's like, "Okay, do you guys want the kosher meals?" I said, "Yeah." So we got from Star K, the kosher certification organization, I guess. So they had their meals, they prepare meals. So they brought us these meals. So everybody's got their plates and everything, it was like relatively nice. So they bring us these meals, and it's just like literally, it looks like MREs from like NASA.
Saran wrap.
Like we're just opening, and it's like 2-3 layers of this stuff, and it's just crinkling and making noise, and then you have the aluminum, and it's just hot, spilling all over the place. And then like the sister of like basically my cousin's aunt on the other side of the family, she's there from like Arizona, and her husband. They're Jewish, but they're not religious. And we just had this whole conversation about people in their family becoming religious. And then the husband, he's like whatever. He's telling me that he's not Jewish, but then he tells me we had a whole thing back and forth. But he's telling me like how his mom is Jewish by the mom. So then I told him, "Hey, you are Jewish?" He's like, "Yeah, I guess I am." And then we finally got to that part of the conversation, and then our meals come, and then we start opening these ridiculous clown meals.
Want to join us?
And yeah, exactly, in front of them. And I'm like, Hashem, why did you make this the most uncurable moment in the history of Judaism? This will make them want to go fly to Hawaii and eat at a giant pig at a luau after seeing
this.
This
goes back to the modesty.
NASA MRE thing. Yes, I guess modesty. Yeah, sure. Whatever. I was like, oh my God, thanks Hashem. Good job.
Next time you have to tell them, make sure gorgeous waitresses bring it out to us.
Yes. Yeah, some like lady, they brought it out, and like they didn't even know what they're doing with it. The waiters are looking at it like they didn't even know how to like.
Do you want plastic forks?
Yes. No, they didn't. No, they brought us metal forks, and I'm just like, guys, do you guys? There were no forks that came with it. I'm like, do you guys have plastic forks in the back? Oh, we have to look, sir. Sorry. Oh, no.
Wait,
and they didn't
let me
understand.
ask.
Yeah.
Did they give you plates?
They gave us plates. I think they were paper plates. I don't remember.
Okay,
honestly.
good.
I think they were plastic plates, so it's fine.
I've been to weddings for family that they're like, "Oh, we got a kosher meal for you." I'm like, "Great, cool, thank you."
Yeah.
And then they just have like a random server collect and pick them up.
What do you mean by?
They mixed it with every other plate. I'm like,
Ah,
okay, you can't do this anymore. And then of course I get the looks, but why? Are you not done? Yeah, I'm done.
yeah,
The same thing. I
yeah,
look
yeah,
like
yeah.
an alien.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
yeah,
also a Jew?
yeah,
No, I'm not gonna have the scallops.
yeah. Yep, 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 yep.
That's lovely.
Uh, Listen, yeah, whatever. To his credit, he accommodated. He was very nice about it, and he actually called me about to consult on the wine. So basically, all the wine was kosher. It was all like Barkan,
Nice.
just like kind of the good, what I call the good basic, but good.
That's the biggest thing, man. The wine is the biggest thing, in my opinion,
Yeah,
right?
correct,
You can screw
correct.
up on the food,
Yeah,
don't screw up on the wine. You can't do
correct,
that.
correct. Yeah. Um. Yeah, but I'm just like sitting there with these relatives. It's just like, as if they don't enough think of, they're religious, the people who became religious in their own family as psycho enough.
You're already sitting at another table.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're over there, away from everybody else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's funny. We were sat with them, but then like my cousin was sitting. It was like the family table, but he's sitting, but he's religious. But then there's other people from his family who are not. So
Off
basically,
on
it's
the
like
side.
it's him and his wife who are the crazy, literally the crazy people. It's fun. It's a funny back and forth between him and his dad, because his dad, they do this thing where it's like very like friendly, like kind of jabs, but it's not, it's like friendly jabs, but it's one of those things where like, my cousin, he's a bigger man than I, like he knows how to do the whole diplomacy. Like you met him, right? He does diplomacy kind of thing. He does the whole like kind of I don't know how to explain it. Like he knows how to do the keep up appearances thing, right? And
That's hard.
meaning like he knows that a person is being a wise ass with him, and he will take it with grace, and he
He'll
will kind of like,
match.
yeah, he'll match the whole thing, but in a way that's not insulting to the other person. Me, if somebody did that to me, even a family member, I'd literally be like, blank you. You don't know anything. What do you're judging. You don't know anything. I would start a whole,
My problem is I'll try to educate them on it.
that's what I would do. At
But
first,
like
what
in
I
a
would do.
cool way.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And that doesn't work.
It doesn't work, and then but then if they get like raw, if they get all like insulting, I'm just like, you know what? Whatever.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I have my father came from a Hasidic background when he came to the States. Uh Frank's on not mute. There we go.
Mm.
Um so I think I told the story before. He came to the States. I could do whatever I want. It's America. Right to Borough Park. What are you going to do in Borough Park? Oh, you're going to dress like a penguin. You're going to eat things you don't want. All those things you saw on, in Italy that you could eat, you ain't going to do that here.
Oh man.
Um, and no one spoke Russian. So if you didn't speak Yiddish, you had to learn English. And then when I went down the rage path, oh, what did we do wrong? Как это случилось?
Yeah. How did this happen? How did this happen?
I had family come over my house for Sukkot,
Uh-huh.
and they're like, "Oh, you're growing a beard now?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just want to see how it looks."
Yeah.
Oh, please don't become Hasidish.
Folks, I just want to tell you that when a bunch of Russian Jewish kids started keeping, Torah and commandments and living, this is like happening in the late 2000s, early 2010s, this whole thing started back then. I literally was like, if we all went and became like Kurt Cobain, they would have celebrated that more than what we did.
This is MS.
Yeah.
This is what you're doing to yourself. This is their thought.
Yeah.
This is what you're doing to yourself.
Yeah.
You are killing yourself and
Yeah.
your whole opportunity for being in this country. Why would you do this?
Yeah.
You, I have a sibling. She's just like, nope. You can't convince me on any of this stuff. Okay. But like you said, I don't want to change their mind, but when you see light, you want to change everyone's glasses so they can see it too.
Yeah, it's like They Live. You know,
Yeah.
the guy,
Right.
Roddy
That's like,
Piper. Yeah.
Can I share something based on what you just
thank
said?
you. Yes.
You don't know what I'm going to say yet, so you're thanking me.
I have a feeling I know where you're
It
going.
might be premature. Okay, so
Mistake.
my well, we'll see. My attitude is like this. There's you have this idea of the enthusiastic convert, right? Like somebody becomes religious, right? Or they convert, and now they want to convert everyone else. I had something similar to that, but it's not really like that. I have the attitude of the following, which I wish like I could relate to people. I could relay this idea to people, which is the following. I am a 13-year-old adolescent in my mind, where my only interests, and not much has changed since that time, is I still crave Whoppers and Big Macs, pizza. I want to play video games. I want to have sex with Puerto Rican girls. Uh, this is me at 13. I'm describing to you the reason Puerto Rico, for some reason, when we were growing up in the 90s, Puerto Rican girls were like
Living color.
the ideal girl that they were considered like the hottest girls, and this is Brooklyn in the early 90s, folks, okay? And I'm just telling you what was going on in my mind, okay? I wanted to smoke weed, I wanted to go skiing, I wanted to go hang out in, I just was completely I was a really, really average kid, average American kid, okay? I wanted to have fun. I wanted to have every kind of, experience, eat as much, drink as much, and just really, really have a good time. Okay. I'm not trying to group everybody to to that kind of mindset, but that seemed to be the average mindset of the American kid when I was growing up. Okay. And I don't think I was personally, I was not an example of most extreme version of that mindset, but I was part of it. I was part of it. I was a Brooklyn Guido, and I still am. Now, why? What was it that caused me to try to curb my Guido ness? Why am I torturing my basic instincts, my basic proclivities? Why can't I just go enjoy life like I want to? Eat at actually quality restaurants, because there's no such thing as kosher quality restaurants. I know you guys are going to start arguing with me about that, but you know what? Shut the fuck up. All right, give me a break. There's like whatever good kosher restaurants there are. Like if you go to a non-Jewish restaurant, like a quality restaurant, it's going to be 50,000 times
No,
better.
why would I argue with you?
And cheaper.
I agree with you, Frank.
I'm
That's
just
what
saying, folks,
I totally agree with you. Times 100.
like Gentiles,
Yeah.
your physical life is just so much better
Yeah.
than the life of a religious Jew. It's not
Yeah.
It's because I remember both. You understand? Like there's no comparison.
Yeah.
Your quality of life. And like if you want to like like Sebastian Maniscalco,
Yeah.
he's right about everything. He comes from the mindset of what I used to be.
Yeah.
I think he's only a little bit older than us, right? Like, what is he like?
He's like 50, I want to say.
Oh, he's like mid-50s. All right, he's like 10 years old. Whatever. Not too much different.
Yeah.
Okay. Really, really. So what was it that caused me to live a life that I know is physically inferior to what I was living before I knew anything about Torah? Well, here's what it is. We've talked about Torah codes a lot, right? So I'm not going to get into the details of it, folks, but the Torah has a perfect mathematical symmetry, and it has layers upon layers of coded information that shouldn't be in there if it was written by archaic shepherds in the middle of the desert thousands of years ago, like archaic shepherds who are, we're told by academic historians that we're no better than Bedouins from 100 years ago, right? How they shouldn't know, they shouldn't be able to encode pi to many, many decimal points, within the first verse of the Bible. And they shouldn't have mathematical constants encoded all over the Torah, encoded within the text, within the narrative, hidden within the narrative. There shouldn't be mathematical symmetries. There shouldn't be codes of future events that are placed in this story that teaches these basic morals. Without getting into it, the text of the Torah, I discovered, could not have been written by a finite being. It could only have been written by somebody who was not bound by any point in time and space, somebody above time and space, the master of time and space, somebody not bound by time and space, and also somebody dedicated to kind of encoding information which is unusual, like even the codes themselves that are encoded within the text of the Hebrew scripture have a moral message to them. They're not just like these little nuggets that are there to impress you. They're there to reinforce the moral narrative of the plain text of the Hebrew scripture. That's madness. Only God would formulate a text like that. So, what I'm talking about, if you understand what I'm saying, you'd have to investigate it for yourself. But my attitude is just like, guys, like to people like your sister, I'm not telling you keep the Torah. I'm not telling you grow a beard. I'm not telling you put on a wig. I'm just saying, can you take a look at this? And can we be like, holy shit?
They can't take a look at it, Frank.
Can we just be can we be together on holy shit? Why is this here? Like, how could this possibly happen?
Frank,
like, it's hold on. It's like, it's sort of like appreciating, like, it's like me and your sister were walking down the street. All of a sudden, a freaking UFO showed up and it was like, shooting us with beams. Can we be holy shit together on that? It's like that. You understand what I'm saying? Like something like, and the Torah is way more remarkable than that. I'm not saying that you gotta go and become religious now, but can we at least recognize that this is not normal? That this is not just some moral text written by an ancient, caveman or something like that. Like, this is supernatural.
Frank, can I tell you about can I tell you about the conversations that I had with my parents' friends, and where I've literally said what you just said to them? And the two things that I notice, there's basically two reasons that I've concluded as to why they cannot do what you're saying, or or maybe if they can, why they cannot come to the same conclusion.
Before they continue, do they recognize all the mathematical code?
So
how impossible?
Let me get to this. I've presented that. I haven't presented like necessarily the codes in depth, super in depth, but I presented that very notion, especially since the people that I'm speaking to are applied math, people with masters and PhDs in applied math. There's two things going on. One thing going on, which I kind of respect a little bit, is that a few of the people, they know they can't even listen to anything. Why? Because they know that if they do listen, then these are people of truth. So if they do listen, they're going to come to the same conclusions, let's say, that I came to, that you came to, my father came to. What does that mean? That means you got to start doing stuff. They're not going to not do stuff. They're going to start doing stuff. How do I know that? Because one of them started doing stuff at the age of whatever, 60, right? Or something. Start doing something. He wants actually to do more. It's just that his wife insists on driving. They go to Chabad, but she insists on driving to Chabad. Also, they live in a place where the Chabad is very, very far from their house. It's very spread out. The second thing is, they. The other thing that happens is I think people are just so blocked. You described the whole thing of the best things in life and restaurants and all this other thing. These things. I remember there was a rabbi in Israel. I distinctly remember they're sitting at his house, and his rebbitzin is a rabbi I was first like learning from in the beginning of my journey. She asked me about a guy that I knew who became religious, and she asked me, and one of the things he started keeping was kosher. And she said, "Can I ask you a question? Was the guy initially, when he was secular, was the guy, vegan or vegetarian?" I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "Well, what I find is more often than not, people who are vegan or vegetarian, it's easier to get them to keep kosher, or it's easier for their mind to switch to even do that. Why? Because treif is not blocking their neshama." She literally said that. Treif is treif blocks your neshama from accessing words that are coming out of my mouth.
Can you translate that for the folks at home, please?
Whatever it is, the spiritual property of a non-kosher animal that a person will consume will will act as like a cover for their soul to be able to access spirituality.
An obstruction.
And it's an obstruction. It's a klipa. We call it a klipa, a husk, a block, whatever, right?
Blemish.
No, it's not a blemish.
You
Not a
couldn't call
blemish.
it a blemish?
No, blemish
No,
is a
it's not a
pagam. It's different.
That's something else, yeah.
Different concept.
Hagam?
So it's pagam, like pagam
Learn something new.
habrit. Yeah. So it's blocking, and these people are blocked, and you can tell them, and I can show them, some of these people gave me the answer. Oh, do you know? It's like this classical answer, like because they don't know anything. Oh, but if you look at Moby Dick, you can also find things in the. No, you can't. You can't.
Mm-mm.
Okay, you can't. You can't find them. You can't find shit in Moby Dick. Okay, find Dick in
That's
Moby Dick. Okay.
Only ignoramuses
Yeah.
will make that statement.
So I've gotten those answers, but the common thing is that these people are either people of truth, and if they again, if they know, if they investigate just a little bit, they'll understand that this is the truth, and they're gonna have to do something about it, or they're just so blocked that they can't even hear. That's one of two things that are happening.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
Agreed.
so just to kind of agree with you, Greg, at the risk of agreeing with you, the people that you're referring to, the only way that you can't, this is not a topic that you can kind of talk about and get people to see it. You literally have to show them thousands of examples.
Yeah.
And that's difficult because people don't like to sit still for anything like
they
that.
can't sit still for that. Yeah.
Well, they tune out.
They
Yeah,
tune
of course,
out.
of course.
But I just got pulled in. You know how it all lined up for me? Because I could have easily been one of those people too.
Yeah.
Right? Like God set it up in a way for me to kind of notice it. And by the way, I'm bad at math. Okay, so I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm a math guy. I have enough.
The math people who are atheists will say, "Yeah, this is why you were susceptible to it. If a person is good at math,
right." But again, when I say I'm bad at math, meaning like I'm not as familiar with advanced math, but the type of math that I'm talking about in the Torah is not. Even though if you look at the work of Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg, he'll show you advanced math in the Torah as well. But God, the kind of codes that I'm talking about are accessible to everyone. Basic arithmetic. If you're familiar with basic arithmetic, you can see this. You also have to be a little bit, have some basic level of awareness of the idea of transcendental numbers like pi and phi, right?
Yeah.
But that's not difficult. A person with average intelligence can understand this with, if you explain it to them for 5 minutes. Okay. So the point is, God didn't make it overly complex. He made it accessible to everyone. Okay. But he also included advanced math, as advanced as you want to get in the Torah. But anyway, I came to it because I was watching an episode of Star Trek. I've mentioned this once or twice. Greg knows the story, but
I was gonna say X-Files.
not X-Files.
Wasn't out yet.
Star Trek. Well, no, it was out. It was out. But I'm talking about one particular episode of Star Trek where the Starship Enterprise gets summoned to a planet where there's chaos going on. When they get there, they discover it's an agrarian planet, right? It's an agrarian culture that has been in harmony and peace for 1,000 years. Now there's political disruption, there's riots that are going on, and there's also apparently tectonic activity going on the planet. And so when they get there, they realize that people are panicking because there's a religion on the planet. And their religion tells them that the leader of their planet, of their society, made a deal with the devil, with whatever their idea of the devil was. That in exchange for 1,000 years of peace and plenty, right? When the 1,000 years is up, the devil will appear and claim the planet as their own, or something like that, or the souls of the people, or something like that. So this is a Federation planet. So the Starship Enterprise goes there to investigate the matter, and everything that the prophecies of the people of that planet talk about seem to be happening. Like there's earthquakes and there's tidal waves, tsunamis, and volcanoes erupting, like it says in their prophecy, and also appearances of their devil person, and all this supernatural stuff is occurring. And the crew of the Enterprise, they get there and they see it happening, and they're like, "This is impossible. It can't be happening, right?" So in the end of the episode, they realize that all the supernatural stuff that they were seeing was created by an extremely advanced spaceship that was hiding behind a meteor somewhere far away from the planet, and they were able to project energy in such a way to manifest like all these supernatural looking things, and the appearance of this devil who seems to have all these powers. It was all being controlled by some kind of really sophisticated technology, right? So that was my general attitude about any kind of religious experience. That if you hear somebody say, "Oh, I had this religious experience, I had a Jesus appeared to me," or Muhammad, or the Buddha, or whatever.
Mary's in the cake.
Hare Krishna showed up and he gave me a beer or whatever. Like you have all these people who have all these experiences and they're inspired by this. And I never trust any of that shit, and I still don't. That's just that's who I am. Okay. Like even like some of the stuff that if you read the English translation of the Hebrew scripture and it talks about some kind of miraculous event, it's conceivable that some advanced spaceship could have manifested those things, right? Which diminishes the experience. And it's like, you trick a bunch of cavemen or something like that. Well, it's not so hard. Like, you could probably do that now, But even I understand that you can't trick math.
Yeah.
Math is the language of the universe.
Yeah.
All of our understanding, of modern understanding, scientific understanding of the laws of nature, physics, is all based on math. And physicists and people who study natural sciences have noticed there are certain mathematical constants that are a little too convenient, right? That seem to be programmed into the universe,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like pi and phi, just there's others too, but okay. And it's all over. It's like in every mathematical formula, every formula of physics.
Phi is what? The golden ratio, right?
The golden ratio, yeah.
Yeah.
And those are just two examples, right?
Yeah.
So math is the language of the universe. You're not going to trick math. You're not going to, there's no sophisticated spaceship that's going to manifest math in a certain way, or it's going to manifest the laws of physics, right? The laws of physics are the laws of the universe. They explain, they facilitate technology. Like this computer and the internet and the satellites and all the technology that we're using now is it's created by these mathematical constants and formulas that people have discovered, and they're using them to create technology.
Yeah.
Okay. So when God showed me that kind of math in the Torah, I was like, oh, that you can't trick that. You can't fabricate that. You understand?
Yeah.
So once you show people that angle of the Torah, then they can put their pursuit. It puts um, into perspective the way they're leading their life. You understand? It gives them it gives them pause, and it makes them a little bit more conscientious about the things they do and say, what they eat,
Yeah.
and they ask themselves, is it right? Because once you understand that the Torah is not normal, once the Torah could not have been written by any kind of finite being or any group of finite beings. Okay? Once you understand that and you begin to read it, it you take seriously the notion of, am I living correctly? Or at least it gives you the idea to sort of, maybe I should limit the kind of experiences that I've been longing for, or the kind of things that I have been eating or
Frank,
drinking.
can I describe to you, interestingly enough, what you're talking about, the whole thing of a limit, these experiences and all the thing. What happened to me is actually bizarre, because the way that it happened to me was bizarre. I was, I was actually doing that, the Rage program that Eric, you mentioned, Russian American Jewish experience. So this was happening in like 2008, 2009. So as you can imagine, I was still in the club scene. I was still in all these DJing, all this kind of stuff. So now, imagine a guy, 27, 28 years old, going to 1 day a week on Thursday nights to hear Torah lectures for 3 hours, different kinds of topics, different kinds of categories. Uh, you know, Chumash, five books of Moses, Halacha, Talmud, etc., etc., maybe Jewish history. And then at night, go to hear like his favorite DJ. At some point, after like, this 2 month, two semester program, for 4 months or 5 months, I don't know what happened. After like 4 months or 5 months of doing Shabbat, you guys seem to be technologically having a difficulty here.
No, I'm listening to every
We hear
word.
you. After doing Shabbats, 2 Shabbats or 3 Shabbats, and meeting, I don't know, rabbis, meeting families. At some point, I remember distinctly walking into like literally what was my favorite club at the time, this place called Cielo, and just physically being disgusted.
Who was DJing?
I don't remember. I wasn't disgusted at the DJ. I was disgusted at the. No, actually, that the music is probably the only thing that did not
Probably
disgust me.
Francois K.
It was Franz OK or Louis Vega, one of the two. The music was not disgusting. The environment was disgusting. Or I remember distinctly going to like, it was actually, I was traveling a lot at the time, and I remember I went to with friends. I went to um just like Winter Music Conference in Miami. I went to two in a row. The one in 2008 was relatively okay. The one in 2009, I couldn't be there. I felt like I was swimming in like, I didn't even know what the word for it was at that time, but I felt like I was swimming in something nasty. And then I remember actually going to Brazil after that, December 2009. I remember being in Rio. I'm just like, I can't be in this country. It was crazy. And then later on I found out there's a word for this. It's called tuma. It's called impurity. And then I realized that, for me it was like, obviously, I knew what the Torah said about non-kosher food, and I knew what the Torah says about this and that and the other. But for me, I literally started feeling these things, and feeling the impurity of these things and not being able to eat, or consume it, or be around things, certain people, certain places. I remember in the beginning, even now, it's very difficult for me to go to like step foot in Manhattan. I just can't. Not because it's a blue stupid, like what Frank calls it, dumb blue state or dumb blue this or dumb. It's something else. I cannot go. My sister lives in Manhattan with her husband, and I sometimes go there on Shabbat. And honestly, Shabbat does not feel like Shabbat in Manhattan. It does not feel like Shabbat at
It
all.
feels like Tel Aviv.
I don't even know not even Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv feels more holy than Manhattan on Shabbat. And I'm not even
I
talking
don't
about the
think
cars. I'm not talking
I
about the
don't think I've
cars.
ever spent Shabbat in Manhattan. I don't think I'm
Don't
trying to
do it.
remember.
I don't recommend it, Frank.
Ah,
I don't
you,
recommend it.
you ain't missing
You're
much.
not missing much.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Even the people in the Upper West Side. It's just like, listen. I've spent Shabbat in Tel Aviv. Certain parts in Tel Aviv, you feel Shabbat, like you feel it's Israel. At the end of the day, it's Israel. You know. And certain parts of Tel Aviv, like where I lived in Tel Aviv, was a little quieter. Ironically, it was even quieter in certain parts of Tel Aviv than it is in Jerusalem. Because in Jerusalem, you have all these, the Arab taxi drivers are driving around, people, tourists, and this and that. Tel Aviv is like, it could be very quiet on Shabbos. Um, but yeah, I just like felt things, like
It's
Joker.
very problematic
Yeah,
when you're in the culture of nightlife.
yeah,
Um, you and I've been in it for a long time.
yeah.
Um, and when now that I'm down in the Miami area, I keep getting, I had gigs that were at non-kosher, fancy schmancy steakhouses. It smells absolutely delicious in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm rolling in with my
And
costume.
with your MRE? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm rolling in with my costume.
Uh-huh.
I'm only drinking tequila and coffee. If you want more, I have
Coffee?
no espresso. I have like a whole thing. You just got to put it on the chain.
I'll try.
Yeah, пожалуйста.
I don't know what I'm doing.
You'll see over there where the pot is. But it, you're right. When you start to understand that there's something missing, when you start to understand that, all right, cool, I'm just in it for the music, and you can separate yourself from everything else, that's kind of like making like a mental mechitza, a mental separation between you and everybody else, and I'm just here for the music. That can be achieved. The problem is when everyone around you doesn't see things that way.
Yeah.
And the only saving grace that I have, let me know if that's hot. The only saving grace I have is when I'm at these places and a guy or a girl will come up to me with like the tiniest Magen David, the tiniest Star of David, and say, "Hey, doing great," or like, "Hey, do you have this song?" Or they give me like I don't normally need I really don't need the thumbs up. It's cool to see, and it's cool when they're like, "Here, take this tip for whatever." I don't even know. But like spreading the light in however you can in the environment you exist in, or that you want to be in, but you want to brighten up a little bit. That's a great feeling. Frank was like the rabbi of our crew for, I don't know, for years, right? We're all doing stupid debauchery nonsense, chasing the Puerto Rican girls, trying to get everything that you can put into your body. And Frank was just like, "I'm not coming. It's Friday." He's like, "You could come over to my house." I'm like, "Well, what about I do? Why would I do that? You have cats." I'm gonna die if I walk in there.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So in terms, you guys are talking about like nightlife or whatever, right? I only discovered progressive house music after coming back from Israel. Like I was not
Interesting.
I was not aware of that. I met Greg and him after coming back from Israel, after being religious for like 6 years already.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw and it was Greg Alpin and who actually introduced me to the entire genre of music. And when I was listening to it, I immediately felt a spiritual connection to it.
Yeah.
And I felt my mind, it seemed to help my mind focus
Yeah.
on the spiritual reverie that I was looking for. It helped me like to hook into that,
Yeah.
to the flow, as
I think I have the same thing going on. And by the way, it upset me greatly when I would meet people who, who would tell me, I don't understand this stuff. It's like so repetitive. And I didn't have the language to explain, doofus, there's a reason it's repetitive. It's trying to get you to connect to
it's a mantra.
blah, 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 blah. And if it's produced correctly by with correct elements and by the person who knows what he's doing, he's gonna get you there. Even if he himself is, I don't know, maybe atheist or whatever they are.
There's mathematics in the sound.
Yeah.
You learn later, and this I learned this later, that from people like Bart Sadok, primarily Bart Sadok, right? That the prophets of old would use music and repetitive mantra like music to get into the headspace in order to receive prophecy. So I was looking for prophecy. I was trying to get into the headspace to receive Ruach HaKodesh, to free my mind and my soul a little bit, to be able to have, like, a real, to connect,
Yeah.
to divinity. That's what I was seeking. I wasn't fully conscious of this. I just knew that it helped my mind de-stress. It helped me leave some of the weight of what was going on in my life at that time. There was a lot of bad stuff going on. Like my mom was sick, and I just got thrown out of school, and it was really making it difficult to let my mind kind of like flow and to think about higher things. And the music really helped me.
Yeah.
So sometimes it was counterproductive, but
Yeah.
but overall, you know what I mean? Like it took,
Yeah.
I think it took some time to learn how to use it, or the correct context for it. And so I went out with you guys on Saturday nights, and other than
Yeah.
not Friday nights, I went out Saturday nights. Okay. But I was also, I was weary of some of the negative stuff that was around, but I noticed that there was a lot less of it depending on which music tribe you were a part of.
Correct.
Yes.
The trance tribe was the greasy,
Yeah.
to use a term from the horrible wasted mind of Patton Oswalt, right? Again, because I think he's such an amazing comedian. I feel it's a tremendous loss to lose him to the left, and which he is a loss to the left, like he's the guy. But he was talking about living in L.A., right? And he called it. This is his term. He goes, L.A. is like, I call it demon cock. Okay. And then he goes, and then and I used to just hate it, and it just felt like demon sea. Let's put it that way, all right? To clean it up a little. He goes, then I went to Las Vegas. I had to go do a show in Las Vegas, and that was like demon cock, like deep fried and dunked in glitter.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh, you could feel the nastiness of it, right?
So
Okay.
it's trans people.
So the whole the whole every and I have friends who were part of that, and I love them dearly, but the vibe was just deep fried, nasty, covered in like like the floor of the floor of a movie theater.
Yeah.
Like
the end of the night at a bar, sticky
the floor of Kent movie theater on Avenue H.
Yeah,
and
but
Avenue.
and the spiritual, and we're not talking about porn movie theaters, just regular movie theaters, folks, okay?
Yeah.
But it just, there's like this like nasty spirit. Spiritually, it's nasty.
Yeah.
Okay. And the type of people they're more violent.
Yeah.
They're more like aggressive.
Yeah.
They're more closed off to like spirituality. like trans people generally or more, you know, they wanted nice gashmias, like they were more like
Yeah.
bloodthirsty in the business world.
Yeah.
They were more like
You're basically talking about Guidos, more glorified Guidos.
it's not even that. There's different levels of Guido because I
Yeah.
consider myself some level of Guido.
Yeah.
I'm
So
talking about like
we're talking about like these
I'm talking
like
about extremely
Jersey Shore.
extremely materialistic like dudes
Yeah.
boars, like
Yeah.
spiritual boars.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was their music.
Yeah.
Progressive house and like drum and bass and other stuff that seemed to
Yeah.
be like
It seemed to be more music heads.
more music
Spiritual.
heads, people who are like more relaxed, more chill,
Yeah.
less.
Yeah.
They're not really harshing your vibe. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's
Yeah.
just like certain
Yeah.
terms
Yeah.
that I've heard before.
Trance music. I'm on echo.
Juice heads, like dudes
Yeah.
who did
Yeah,
steroids.
yeah.
That was their thing. Trans
Yeah.
music. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
It's they're chasing when you're listening to trance music,
Yeah.
you're chasing something.
Yeah.
Right? They're chasing for some reason this whole EDM thing became chasing a drop,
Yeah.
chasing whatever it is.
Yeah.
And in trance music, because it's so melodic, they're looking for that new
Yeah.
kind of like they're looking for their new high, they're looking for their new
Yeah.
the new next level of ecstasy, right?
Yeah.
With house music, because it's so repetitive, you're not getting like a punch in the stomach.
There's a
It's
build
coming in doses.
Yeah, there's a build.
It's coming slow.
The tracks
And
are like longer.
have you guys spoken about 432 versus 440 tuning?
Yeah.
Okay, you have.
We
Okay.
mentioned that, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's.
I just want to say
Yeah.
that trance music.
Frank, you're gonna mute yourself. Oh. I could hear you, but yeah. I muted Frank because there was an echo. There you
Let me take care of the echo. All right, Greg. All right.
go.
Okay. No, so
There was like a serious echo.
that was my trance moment. Sorry.
Let me take
Okay,
care.
so-
Let me take care of that.
No, but like like trance music was like it was like a bodybuilding show, like on the dance floor. It was really, really like aggressive. You know what I mean? It was like weird.
Yeah.
It was like bang the most chicks, be the most buff, drive the nicest car, make them, win the fight. It's literally for meatheads.
You know
It's
what
meathead
I
music.
kept hearing? Yo, where are the vocals? I need vocals. The vocals. There's no vocals. Why is he playing the dub? I need the vocals. Eric, did you hear vocals? The demand for vocals?
Yes.
Especially girls. Do you have anything with vocals?
Where are the words?
Dude,
Where are the words? Where are the words?
It was
like
to-
IO
it-
Rapture?
Can I
That's
just tell
actually a
you?
good track. I like that track.
It was to the point. I'm glad that you said girls because it was to the point where if you were a trans girl, you were not attractive to me, and it doesn't matter what you
Yeah.
look like.
Yeah.
This is that crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like if if you like trans, there's something wrong with you. To me, at that time, you know what I mean? Like I'm not saying
Jonathan
I'm not-
Peters, if you went to DJs at Belmar for Jonathan Peters,
yeah,
you were not. No.
Not my speed.
it became really clicky. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
I had the right mindset. I'm just saying that what it was like at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, which was that part was stupid. But by the way, when I went out with you guys, like I'm not saying I was against seeing girls. It wasn't the thing. Do you understand? It wasn't like what
Yeah.
I was looking for. I was kind of like in some ways like Greg. Greg was kind of low key spiritual without like even realizing it. Like he was kind of like me, where you want to find your little like place to sit somewhere, like even on top of a speaker somewhere, and just kind of lose yourself into the music, like just kind of like sit there.
It was a spiritual experience.
It was I was chasing something like similar to Greg and you.
Yeah.
And
I was chasing the music. It was nice to see women there, obviously.
yeah,
I'm
it's always
all
nice to see women.
It's not going to happen tonight, but I'm here for whoever's spinning and the energy of the room. And we come outside, and if it's still light out, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The birds chirping, that's not always so fun, but that was part of the whole
Frank-
experience.
But if you were trans,
Yeah.
It had to happen. The
Frank,
chicks, it had to happen that
Frank,
night.
you know that there was a website that came out. I don't know if it still exists. I haven't checked. At that time, regarding what everything you're describing, it was literally called hotchickswithdouchebags.com. And you would see these guys, they look like they just came out of a tanning bed. And
The hair,
and the
like,
hair, yeah, the hair was going up to like it was just, this is how this was.
It still exists.
And it's the
the blowout, they called it, right?
oh, the website's look Eric went on this. I don't even know if I should show.
It looked
I
kind of
don't,
satanic,
I
it was
don't
like a
even yeah.
satanic haircut.
I don't even know if I should show this, but this is actually
Can you show the blowout? It looks
No,
like it looks satanic.
Dane Cook is on it.
Dane Cook. Yeah, I mean, you could show Dane Cook, but it's actually he looks similar to what these guys were. See,
Yeah,
like this kind of situation.
this is trans kids. That's trans
Like
kid.
you see, the girls are yeah. Okay, so this is a video. I don't know. Like these guys, like this kind of guy, and they're whatever. Like you would see these people in Miami also a little bit. I
Go
don't know what
down
the
past
hell.
the article, you'll see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look at look at this guy. Look at the face. You have to make the.
Can I just tell you something? It's pretty sick. I'm
Keep going,
embarrassed
keep
about it,
going.
I'll
but
just
I
go
think
back to
it's
2005.
if you were a trans girl,
Yeah.
you were essentially barred for infinity from me.
Yeah.
Like it was a permanent caste system, like in India.
Yeah.
Like we can never be. Like,
Look what it says on the thing. Shirts and other various upper torso type garments are for losers. That's the message. Slugs Grifty here is rocking. Deal with it. I paid to a horse once. Zucchini. The other way me. Oh, there's like links to other things. Draw me like one of your French zucchinis. Speaking of healthy organic consumables, pair. Oh no, he's got all these
The guy's
links
got
to-
like 2% body fat.
yeah.
This is jacked.
Yeah. So you see, like, yeah, whatever. See, look at this guy. Look at the girl. Look at
That's
the girl.
guy.
Yes. If you could deliver a back hunter smackdown to this moron in front of bulbous boobed Barbara, but can only use 7 words of the King's English, what would you utter onto him? Natasha and Vicar. Oh, this is the Russian version. Not everyone is happy that the hot chick's douchebag mocking of all things baggish persists. These are people who saw like in maybe like Brooklyn of the version that Frank is describing.
Sadly, some of the places I played at.
Yes. Dark sides. And they're just the descriptions. I wonder who started this website. I want to know.
dude, I feel like
Whatever.
I feel like
This-
like auto tune and mashups
yes.
and trance are
Yeah.
all part of the same dipshit crew. You know,
The
what I
thing
mean? It's
is,
just a
Frank,
continuation.
Frank, it depends which trance. Because I'll tell you honestly, the trance that came out in
I'm not talking about Sasha.
yeah.
I'm not talking about Digweed.
No. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about like even like if you go to like Europe in Netherlands and England, all that stuff in the
I'm talking about
90s.
Sound Factory trance.
So
Sound
that's
Factory
so
shit.
that's what we would call vocals. Yeah. That genre is actually called. I know what you're talking about, but it's actually called. They called it
Right, 'cause
vocals.
Trans is still huge.
Yeah.
And Armin van Buren is like the only one who
yeah.
hasn't sold out, who plays like a
Yeah.
freaking champ.
Van Buren, Paul Van Dyke, Ferry Corsten, those
You got to
kind of
see
things.
them
Yeah.
play
Yeah, that's
now.
amazing. They're
and
amazing.
Still crushing it.
They're very good. Yeah.
Like excellent,
So
excellent.
if you're talking about actual trance, like in Europe, it's good. But yeah, this stuff is just.
It's hard to pin it down exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that there aren't versions of trance. Like Sasha. Like it took me a while. Like who got me to admit that Sasha is trance? I couldn't admit it because I liked it, and I was like, it can't be trance because I like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stan got me. He's like, dude,
Yes.
Sasha is trance. I'm like, fuck, is he right? Fuck, he
Yes,
is
he's
right.
right.
It's like shit, So I don't know. I don't know how to make the distinction. We just know when you hear it, right? That this is meathead music because
Yeah.
it sounds
Yeah.
circus-like. It sounds like it sounds like clown music.
You know what it sounds like to me? I used to call it angry bees buzzing inside of a metal can.
You know, can we show some examples of this? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
can we
Oh
show
my God.
Meathead music, please?
Yes,
Guys,
dear Lord, the first
you're the
picture.
right man. You're the right man to show everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
We're talking
Let's
about
do
here.
let's do like again anything
We're
that,
about
like,
to alienate all
it's
two of our listeners.
it's fine. Let's listen to like Jonathan Peters something.
I have some of it. I'm on my gig laptop.
Okay, Shannon, give me tonight. Okay, just some of the stuff is not
No, Shannon, dude. Shannon giving tonight
no
is
the
not Meathead music.
no the remix. He has all these remixes.
All right, don't mess with Shannon though. Find another remix.
No. There's like here.
She's been through enough. Okay.
Let's do like okay.
Dude, I got one that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But it's on my computer.
There's this is like Oscar G. But this is more like actually pretty good. Oscar G. Jonathan Peters remix.
Come on, guys, do it right. Do it right.
What's
Don't force me to do this.
So he did some good. There was some good Narcotic Thrusts remix that he did.
We're not talking about Narcotic Thrust, bro.
So look at Jonathan Peters.
This there you go. There you go. You hear the angry bees buzzing inside the metal can?
Shit.
Look up.
No,
Lift Me Up. That was the big one.
Do you hear what I'm talking about? Do you hear this? Like this kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So
or like, Darude Sandstorm. Actually, I actually like Darude Sandstorm.
It's
unironically.
It's
Unironically.
decent.
Don't tell my wife that.
She likes it. She's like a lot younger than us. Whatever.
Eric, which track were you talking about? Eric?
It's called "Lift Me Up"
by who?
JP did a remix. I still have it. Whenever I have like people that are
those kind of people
in our generation, but you can tell where they went.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I have like a mini folder of like
this thing,
factory classics, so you can call it.
Yeah. Why is this not optimizing for video sharing? Okay, whatever. I guess it's just this thing. This actually does not have that.
I like it.
You guys are not doing this right.
But I could imagine these like meatheads like going
with the right system,
folks. They have failed. Both Greg and Eric have failed. They're not representing the kind of music that we're talking about. We're making fun of a certain type of like. It sounds like circus shit. It really does. It sounds just like circus music.
I have a circus song.
Again, I have a feeling it's not going to work. I think I have to like.
No, because we have to actually go and look for this stuff, and yeah. We have to go.
It's like they're embarrassed of it, so they hit it.
No, it's just
not you guys. Like the interwebs.
No, the interwebs. You have to know what you're looking for.
I'm trying to remember. See, I didn't know it very well.
Are you talking about stuff they played in Sound Factory?
Yeah.
So there's a thing called Sound Factory.
Fuck it. How about this? I Turn to You.
Oh yes.
That shit. Okay.
Remix.
That shit made me want to run back to Israel. Yeah. Okay, when I got one, dude, I got
Melanie
to
C. This thing.
Every 2 seconds, I turn to you. Yeah. People were losing their minds like they were listening to Bach. Okay, and I'm like,
it's garbage.
I would destroy the world.
I can understand.
Oh, because she was
when nothing turns out.
She's from Spice Girls.
It just sounds like I need to try it.
Yeah. Do you know why I need to chat? Because every Russian singer in a Russian restaurant started singing it.
No.
And then the girls are like, come on, let's go dance. Let's go dance to the husband, to the boyfriend.
No.
And then the boyfriend's
like,
just like the boyfriend.
Yeah,
boyfriend's like a piece of wood. He's just like, with the, He doesn't give a crap. He's just doing it because
Whatever. This kind of
whatever.
this kind of Euro trash sounding crap. You know what I mean? Like I don't know
Yes.
how to I don't know the
Yes.
right words to explain it because I've heard Euro trash stuff that I actually like. So it's
Yeah.
difficult to pin it down.
You're not
Yeah.
thinking like Razor and Guido, right?
Let me hear something. I just want to I got to let's get to the
Oh
bottom.
yeah,
of
Razor and
this.
Guido. Yeah.
Let's
Yes.
get to the bottom.
That was a great song.
Which one? Do it again.
Yeah. Everyone knows that.
Yes. That shit.
That was a great song.
So
I
this
don't
is
know.
bees buzzing in the can.
Every time I drop it goes wrong.
Oh, this crap. This is what I'm talking about, bro. Dude, this is the shit. Dude, like
No, I got another one for you.
I gotta tell you, when you take
I got
the
another one.
stupid bees in the can, just keep the beat. It's actually not the beat is actually not
I'll type it in the chat.
too shabby.
This is what you got to look up.
how can you get into any
Service.
spiritual state of mind listening to that shit?
Ay.
It's literally the opposite.
I know. You can't.
It's funny though. Before he plays it, I have like a dope disco remix of it. I'll play it later.
Dude, disco is great actually. Like
What did you post, Eric? Derb, what the hell is Derbus?
Service.
What the hell is
I
that?
played it at the Roxy. We were doing
What
a
is
stock party.
what is this?
You'll hear it. You'll be like, oh,
Oh
okay.
God,
You know this.
dear Lord! I already see like a clown thing. This derb.
Yeah. Well, that's that.
Ay. That's
Oh, okay, yes.
let's see.
This makes me what
There's gonna be
Hold on.
it makes me
Oh,
worried.
Here it comes.
This is not what I. This is what I wanted people to know is shit. The shit of the shit. It's not in a good way. The bad type of shit.
This is.
This is like Satan's music.
Can you hear the bees, the angry bees buzzing inside the metal can?
I have a lot of this stuff. People are looking for that.
Yeah.
Dude, we do weddings.
Why do people like that? I'm like that African interviewer who's like, "Why are you gay?" Who said I am
Eric,
gay?
I'm trying to
Why?
Because
understand.
it's mindless
this.
Yeah, yes.
You don't have to know how to dance. There's no soul in it. There's a cool remix of that. You can find it. David Ferrero, Ferrero. It's actually really dope.
Ferrero or Forbes?
Ferrero.
There's a weekend remix.
By the way, just I want to, in case anybody's having confusion, I like aggressive metal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you do this,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like it's real. It's real energy.
Yeah.
That feels like literal nothing.
It's contrived. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know
very
what you
bad.
are. I don't know what you are. Do you have soul if you like that? I don't understand you. I cannot relate. Are we part of the same species? Why do you like that? Why are you so enthusiatic about it?
This is actually a really nice remix, by
crazy.
the way, dude.
I like it.
Yeah, this is
So this is the kind of stuff we would hear at the progressive house parties.
Yeah, this is more on the progressive house. Look, it says Greg Lauren, Africa, 2001.
Oh,
Is
that's
that you, Greg?
That's my production. Yes.
Oh, nice. He's famous, folks.
I produced something in a
2,000
NYU
views.
in an NYU dorm room. Yeah, with like just samples and I don't know if you guys want to hear. I'm embarrassed to even play it.
Bro, what was that club across the street from NYU?
From NYU.
It was literally
Webster Hall. You talking?
No. It was right across the street from Washington Square Park, like on the same. You know what I mean? Like the same street as Mamoon's.
Oh, Sullivan Room. That's a dope place.
Was it Sullivan Room?
Sullivan Room was amazing.
Lasuk?
No, not Lasuk.
No, Lasuk is on Avenue
cool too.
Avenue
Dope.
B.
It was
Lasuk
dope.
was
It was
Avenue
dope.
amazing.
Oh.
You
Yeah,
think of probably Sullivan Room. Sullivan.
It could have been the Sullivan Room. Like you go, you have to
Correct.
go down.
Correct. Yeah, there was
Right?
a guy. There was a guy at the front door.
Man, there was a
black guy
girl.
named
There was a
AK.
girl at the co-check over there that made it all worth it. Anyway, sorry.
Sunroom was a dope place.
That was a good. That was a good place.
I heard what's his name? Satoshi Tomi there. I heard a few people there. I heard Tom Middleton there. That was pretty cool. You know Tom Middleton.
Never heard of him.
I remember we saw Timmy Regisford at Shelter.
So that Greg kept talking about, Alpin kept talking about, hey dude, you want to go to Timmy Regisford's? They would go there all the time.
Yeah.
It was like a deep house African house thing.
I think like
very good.
Yeah.
I think I went out like, let's say I went to clubs maybe like 50, 60 times, like for my entire club career. Most of them were Vinyl and Shelter.
Yeah. What later became Arc. There was a club, basically when the club called Twilo closed, people needed a place to go, and somebody opened a club called Vinyl on the corner of Hudson and Hubert Street in I guess it's not Tribeca. It is Tribeca, sort of. And it was just dark. You just walk in there and it was dark. And of course Danny Tenaglia, our favorite DJ, used to flash his stupid little flashlights in your eye. Why? Because people had their phones, and he's like, "Get off your phone!" He literally would, like, in the middle of the track, he would like yell out into the mic, "Get off your phone!" And he like flash the flashlight in your face.
Yeah,
he just wanted you dancing.
He's like live. He's like live, right? Like,
yeah.
Bro, I want to state an irony. I think this is an example of irony. Although you have snooty people be like, "That's not irony."
Yeah.
Okay, but so we'll see if you guys. During this time, while I was judging meatheads, ironically, I was the most jacked I've ever been in my life. Like I had a gym. Like I was personal trainer, and I was like seriously, like in the best shape of my life. But I didn't see myself as like they were red.
Yeah.
Like the meatheads, like they looked. I don't know if they was their physic. I don't know if they're all juicing and they were just red. But they looked like Satan's minions to me.
Lots of juice and the tanning salon.
Yeah, I think it's probably the tanning. That's what it was. Like I still have my natural skin color, and I wasn't trying to pick fights with people.
Frank, can I tell you something? I'm going to say something you may not like. I mean, I just accepted it. Trump is them. And you want Trump to be, but you want one of them who's a patriot, to be the president, to be on your side.
I don't think Trump is
instead of against you.
I would have to. I'm going to push back a little bit.
Because he's sober.
He's like an older version of them.
I know. I could see that accusation, and I could see like this is one of the reasons why I think like some Jews are prone to go against him.
Yeah,
because he kind of resembles those guys.
Yeah, a little bit.
But he's not like them at all, actually.
I don't think he's fully. I don't think he's fully them.
And from those guys, right? Like from all the ones that I personally know and got to know, and even peripherally, they're all fucking Democrats.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
They're douchebag business Democrats.
Yeah.
You understand? Like they're all about self.
Yeah.
They're all about like promote, like getting ahead and just doing whatever like if their boss is a Democrat, well, they'll just say whatever they need to do to get. They are not fans of Trump. The people that I'm talking about. This is just from my personal observation, and I think that first of all, Trump is sober. That's number one. Two, he actually thinks he has a kind of like world view, where what I mean is he thinks big picture. Like he actually thinks about something bigger than himself.
Yeah.
Trump thinks about the world at large and how to benefit the world at large. No one that I'm describing fits that description. Trump is he's not obsessed with his own physicality.
Yeah.
Okay, the guy, he's a little bit overweight, he eats junk food. He's not one of those guys. Do you understand? Like he plays golf or whatever, you know what I mean? Like he I guess he's healthy, but not because he's not healthy on purpose. He's just healthy because he has that mazal. Like God just made him healthy. God saved his life like a whole bunch of times God gives him superhuman energy, just to kind of like do the stuff that he needs to do in this world. But he's really nothing like those guys that I'm describing.
Yeah.
He's a little too, dare I say, he's a little too wholesome. Like Trump is one of the more wholesome kind of New Yorker guys that you're likely to run into. You understand? Okay, so he likes broads. So do I. You know what I mean? Like who? Like what normal guy doesn't? You know what I mean? Like that's the only thing you criticize him for. Oh, he likes pretty girls. You know what I mean? Like what else are you going to say about him? You know what I mean, he's not a juice head. He's not.
The last guy liked them, but they were a little younger.
Who?
Say again?
The last guy liked them, but I think they were a little younger.
Who?
No, you know,
Who you talking about?
Biden.
You mean the pedophile? He was
Yeah, you know.
right.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, like everything they accuse Trump of, it's
They are
not really
themselves.
true. They are what
Yeah.
they accuse him of, and it does not seem to be true about him. Also, he's a family guy. He's like he has more kids than a Mormon. Right? He has 5 kids. How many kids does he have? He has
I think he's got like he's got one from Marla Maples, one from
He has 5 kids. That's not a Jew. That's not a
Melania,
Sound
and
Factory
3
juice head.
Yeah.
Those
and
guys
3
don't have any kids, or maybe one kid or something like that. They don't even want them.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to stay a Sound Factory juice head
Yeah.
and then become a family man. Something has to radically change in your life.
Yeah.
Okay. Like you have to leave that behind, and realize that was freaking retarded. Enough of that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. So I have to push back on you a little bit. You know how much I don't like to disagree with you, Greg.
Yes.
But no, I really don't actually. I don't. And yeah, so I don't agree with you on that.
Yeah. Right.
He's not one of those guys. He's different. You're not going to pin him down.
I think
he's strange.
he can be perceived as that, but yeah, I don't think he's full. I don't think he's fully like that. I don't think he's fully like that. I worked with those kind of guys in when I worked on Wall Street. I mean, I would see them, just on the streets. A lot of them ended up being like brokers, and
That's what I'm talking about.
or like the boiler room guys, like Vin Diesel.
Yeah. That the Sound Factory guys became the boiler room guys. That's
Become-
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The douchebags of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Also, those kind of people. Like freaking, like what's that Entourage crew? Like that. Those are the Sound Factory douchebags.
Yeah. Or what's his
And
name?
none of them are as funny as Drama.
Or Jeremy Piven became.
No, you know what? Jeremy Piven, like he's in the periphery of those guys. Like he
Yeah.
seems like
He seems more intelligent. Yeah.
a little bit more intelligent. That's more like Trump.
Yes.
Okay, I think Trump is probably a better person than the Jeremy Piven character.
Yeah.
As portrayed there. But there is something interesting, you know what I mean? Where
Can I
just
show
not-
you a funny scene that I think of
immune to the bullshit in some way. Remember when that guy, like he had like he felt bad for him and he didn't fire him when he's supposed to fire him, and then at the end he comes to his senses and he runs over. He's like, "Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah. Yeah, this is him in therapy with his wife.
Oh, this is gonna bum me out.
No, these are actually quite.
It's his anger. I mean, he goes from 0 to 100 in a second flat.
Come on.
Do you feel this is an accurate
No,
assessment, Harry?
I'm a very calm guy. I mean, I'm a very calm person, all right? Whether I'm at work or in a social situation, I am extremely calm. But my wife, who I love very dearly, she likes to nag, and I react to the nagging.
Overreact.
Sometimes, okay, maybe, but without the nagging, no reaction.
Well, what he calls nagging, I call trying to have a relationship.
Look, there's no proverbial judge sitting on a bench judging you.
Ari, I told you to turn that
I
off.
did turn it off, but this is the emergency line. This is the bat line, baby.
Do you need to get that?
I do need to take this,
No,
yes.
he doesn't. I asked for 1 hour out of a day for his undivided attention. And I can't even have that?
You can have it if you want to live in Agora fucking Hills and go to group therapy, but if you want a Beverly Hills mansion and you want a country club membership and you want 9 weeks a year and a Tuscan villa, then I'm gonna need to take a call when it comes in at noon on a motherfucking Wednesday.
See, that's it. There it is.
You know what? I have to take this. There better be a Scud missile heading towards Beverly Hills, Eric.
You know, there's a fucking ice.
All right, anyway. What he said is true.
Yeah, everything he said is true.
What he said is true.
Dude, I didn't like that show, but her character is the one I hated most of all. Like, I hated her so much because everything he said is true. Like, she wouldn't tolerate him if he couldn't, like, he's able to provide the life that she demands.
Yeah.
Right? And he has to pick up that phone calls to provide her that, but she's bitching about it.
Yeah.
You understand? She's an awful character. I can't stand it.
There are people like this in real life, Mr. Frank.
Yeah, I know, Greg. I know. Okay.
That character is based on people.
I know. Okay. Yeah. No, that was very stressful. I don't know why you do this to me, Greg. I'm not sure.
There's actually, no, I wanted to show you. There's a funny scene with him and Lloyd, his assistant.
I think so. Yeah, the Asian guy, right?
These are funny. So this is like,
I never really got that into the show. I would just see it.
This was probably the funniest instance
of it.
Calling Ari. I can't
Dynamic.
Tell him I'll call him back.
I'm growing cold, Ari Gold.
I've got something that might warm him up.
You cougar-licious little freak.
Oh
Just so you know, I'm paying 10 cents on the dollar for your share of this.
No, I don't want to watch.
I can't hear anything.
Hold on. I want to get the scene where he's like, no, there's a here. Ari Gold, Lloyd. Oh, here. There's a scene where he's like telling him to be quiet about something. There you go. This is what I want to see.
No emails, no faxes, no phone calls, no nothing. Simply silence, Lloyd.
Ari.
Silence, Lloyd. It's golden.
Watch this.
Lloyd! This envelope contains the names of 8 agents. Anyone catches you, you eat it. Comprende? Nod if you understand what I'm saying.
I understand.
You can't just fucking nod? Lloyd. I want you to pledge your undying loyalty to me.
Ari.
Listen, Lloyd, do you want to make it or do you want to fold shirts at a Chinese laundry? Now pledge.
I pledge my undying loyalty to you.
Okay. I want you to go to each of these agents discreetly. Say the words, tsetse fly. Say nothing else. Now go.
Ari, are you leaving the agency?
Silence is fucking golden.
Why can't people take basic instructions?
I don't know. But they have probably like the funniest character interactions.
Yeah.
This guy and the assistant guy.
I don't know why, but I felt bad for him. I felt worse for him than for any other character.
For Lloyd, for the Chinese guy?
No.
For Piven.
Yeah, for Ari, man.
Yeah. You know who he's based on, by the way? You're not gonna like this. Ari Emanuel.
Okay, let's not go there. We're not going there in this. No, we're not going there. I can't deal with that. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah.
Yes. So what we were talking about, we were trying to get on the topic of Jerusalem Day and Memorial Day.
No, I just said that for people who have an open heart and open mind, right? It's a day that God seems to. It's like a message to people with an open heart and open mind that it's a unifying, it's a message of unity between America and
Yep.
between God is saying that there's it's a clue. There's a
Yep.
connection. There's an obvious connection between America and Israel and the Jewish people,
Yeah.
right? And especially in the entire effort to retake Israel, right, for the Jewish people, but from a religious context, okay. Especially Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the ultimate symbol of that, right? And part of Jerusalem Day is to remember those who fell in capturing Jerusalem, taking it away from the squatters, right? Even though they didn't do it completely, but the battle, like those men who fought to conquer it, right? We should remember them, right? It's appropriate to remember them along with all the American servicemen and women who died in other conflicts. It may not be obvious to everyone. It may not be obvious to the world right now, but America is connected to Israel. I've said it before. I believe that many people in America, right, or perhaps like a very significant amount of people in America, or maybe even the majority, time will tell, Mashiach will reveal that, are of lost Hebrew ancestry, right, from the tribes. I believe that America is the place where it's like a rest stop for the tribes of Israel. Like God collected them here, not making them fully aware of their history and of their true identity, right? But kind of collecting them here. And then when Mashiach comes, right, a lot will be revealed. And I think some people had the consciousness of what I just said. Right? That was a reality to them. Chiefly among them, the founding fathers. A lot of the founding fathers were of this mindset. Okay, a lot of the earliest uh, pilgrims who came here, right? You know what I mean? The initial people who came over here to start this society kind of had a sense of that. Okay, and there's a reason why America, not without, not perfect, but overall was always a refuge for Jewish people. Okay, there's a lot of secrets. There's a lot of underlying things that are going on about America, its formation, the people that live here, the societies that formed, even the way religion is practiced here. I'm talking about by the Christians. Okay,
Yeah.
So from the Christian mindset, right? They think that their connection to Israel has to do with the Jews becoming Christian. Like that's how they're seeing it. Most of them, not everyone, but that's how most of them are seeing it. And some of them see it as part of the fulfillment of their Christian prophecy, and that the most of the Jews will be killed. The 120, 144,000 or some kind of number, and then it's the way that they see things unfolding, right? So they're just uh kind of playing along with the development of things because they know it leads to the fulfillment of their prophecy. I'm just giving you different Christian perspectives, but the reality, which is something that perhaps a lot of Christians are not prepared to deal with, right, is that it's quite the opposite. It's you who will be discarding your religions and the paganness of it, right? It's a stepping stone. Christianity was a stepping stone from the Baal worship that you were worshiping, all right? And when you discovered Christianity, because you were of Hebrew origin, it was reminiscent of the religion of your fathers, right? But it was kind of a mix of both. It was like still had some of that familiar paganness to it, but it had some some biblical morality to it, which felt good and wholesome because your soul found it wholesome, but it didn't cause you to run too far away from some of the pagan practices that you were used to in the old pagan religions. So it's a stepping stone for the Hebrew tribes to return back to the religion of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The Torah, Judaism. Okay, what the Jews have kept alive throughout all these ages. I was giving you a preview of what's to come. Maybe it's not a good idea.
Frank, you know what? Frank, you know what? No, I mean, Rav Kook used to write something similar, but a little more. He was talking about, why is atheism? This is something that he wrote 100 years ago in 1920. Why is atheism creeping into the Western world, into the, like among Christians, among the Christian world, is literally to because it needs to shed those pagan elements, like people who are, not Jewish and they're looking at Christianity and who decide they're not going to follow it necessarily, right? Or they're not going to follow anything because they see that there's something, they see the pagan elements and they're saying to themselves, there's like a problem here. They see that there's like, they're reading like these used to be like educated people who read, let's say what we call the Old Testament. They read, the first 5 books of Moses, and then they would go on to the New Testament, and then they'd be like, okay, there's like glaring problems here between what this is saying, what that's saying, and like, any person with any discerning eye would be like, okay, this whole thing is like basically, that's what they say. They're like, this whole thing is basically BS. So, and again, no offense to any Christians watching this, but this is what people have told me. People who grew up in Christian families who were just atheists, so that's what they've told me. I have a friend who's a convert. He's actually in the process of converting. He grew up in Ireland, from a Catholic family. And he told me, and then he went to Israel. He fell in love with Israel. He started learning, he's an anthropologist. He used to be at Harvard. Now he's he's back in Ireland. He's a professor. He did a documentary about the wineries of Judea and Samaria. So he asked me for like my help. And he was just like Catholicism straight up. He's just like, dude, I don't want to get into it, but so Rav Kook wrote about like that this would happen. He wrote this like 100 years ago, that this would happen, that there would be like rampant atheism in the non-Muslim like just non-Jewish world. I can't say Christian world, but I mean it's more, Europe, what we know is the West. Or before Mashiach that's what it would be. That's what will be happening. It's interesting because you mentioned America. It's almost like there's in certain parts of America there's a revival. You have the evangelical, because why? Because they focus more on Tanakh. They focus more on the prophets and those writings,
the
Hebrew scripture parts, right? Psalms, prophets, Tehillim. And I was going to say, interestingly enough, Kristi Noem, the head of Homeland Security, she came to Israel on Jerusalem Day.
Yeah.
And a few of the congressmen and senators came to Israel on Jerusalem Day. They met with Mike Huckabee, who's the ambassador.
Or as I call her, Governor Smoke Show.
Yeah.
Secretary Smoke Show.
Yeah. I made a joke. She's at the Kotel. She's standing at the Western Wall. And I said, she looks like one of these like formerly secular Instagram influencers who became, who went to seminary for a little bit, and now loves Shabbos and thinks Shabbos is amazing.
I regret saying that. Like, she's a married lady with kids and stuff like that. It's like it's weird. It's weird to say that.
No, she just whatever, it's Baruch Hashem. So Rav Kook wrote about these things. He basically saw what was coming. I don't think he saw that it would get to such a point where they would be so atheist that they would, because you notice, like anybody on the left who doesn't believe in God, let's say, or pretty much anybody really, like you mentioned the right as well, that if you come to them and you say, well, the Jews belong in Israel because of the Torah, they're just like they'll say BS. They don't accept that because if you don't believe in the Torah, then this whole Israel, Jews and Israel thing is meaningless to you. It just becomes it becomes a colonial project where we're colonizing these poor people and then bombing them in smithereens, and that's it. That's what this is to them.
You reminded me of something. Are you finished with your point?
Yes.
No, okay. So
Yeah.
Earlier you were saying, like, we're talking about, like, you have the Islamists, and then you have the trans people who like want to join with them, but it doesn't make any sense because the Islamists would kill them, right? They openly say that they would
convert them. Yeah.
convert them, kill them, burn them alive, throw them off buildings, something. They can't stay as they are.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Some kind of drastic change must occur. Okay. And you say it doesn't make sense, but I say it makes sense. And we've spoken about it, because they're both Gnostic cultists, right?
Yeah.
But there's an angle here, and this is specifically from the Torah. What the Torah teaches about a Molech. See, they're a Molech. The LGBTQ, free Palestine people, and and then the regular old Islamist free Palestine people, right? They're all a Molech, just different types of a Molech. And what is it about a Molech? What it is? How do you recognize a Molech? What's characteristic about them? They're so fanatical about their Jew hatred. It's characteristic of a Molech to such an extent that they would sacrifice their own lives, right, to diminish, to harm, kill, or just ruin a Jew's day.
Yeah,
that's what the Torah says.
They would cut off their nose to spite their face.
Right. They would see, when folks, just to give you an indication, Amalek was the first nation that attacked the Jewish people after the Exodus from Egypt, right? Because the whole world had heard what God had done for Israel, for the Jewish people, right? And they were scared of the Jewish people because God had destroyed the greatest empire on earth in the history of recorded history, right? For the sake of the Jews. And everybody was scared. I'm not saying anybody liked the Jewish people, but at least people were scared. They're like, maybe let's stay out of their way. Maybe let's not attack them. Maybe let's, kind of like just stay out of it. We're not going to mess with them because look what God did to Egypt.
Correct.
Now, Amalek was a special breed where they knew what God did for it, and they were worried. Their primary concern was not their own well-being, but the fact that they were worried that the Jewish people, by their presence, right, would be respected by the world for what God did for them.
Yeah.
And why were they worried about that? Because they hate the idea of God being involved in the affairs of men. That is what the main issue of Amalek was. They weren't atheists. They didn't have necessarily a problem with God, recognizing God as the creator.
Yes.
But they could not tolerate the idea that God would be involved in their affairs on a day-to-day basis. Like, especially when they heard the kind of stuff that God wants from humanity, the standards. And and no one was a big fan of it, really, because it places a limitation. It makes you conscientious of what you're putting in your body, of how you're treating your fellow man and your fellow creature in general. It limits the kind of sex you can have and with whom and with when and where, right? You can't have sex with animals. You can't have sex with children. You can't have sex with, same sex, right? It's so limited. So that's what was bothering them more than anything else. They were the primary Gnostic nation. Okay. And the Jews represented God meddling in the affairs of man.
Yeah.
So they were so intolerant of that idea that they literally would throw themselves, they would kamikaze themselves by attacking the Jews, knowing that God would destroy them, knowing that they would not. But so what were they trying to accomplish? If see, everybody else was scared to touch them, right? But if Amalek showed that they could attack the Jews, that was like a chink, that was like the first chink in the armor that God had established for the Jewish people, right? They brought down the mightiness of the nation of Israel. They made the nation of Israel seem less mighty. They made it seem like you could attack the Jews. It made the Jews more vulnerable, right, for the other nations. So Amalek is the type of person who sacrifices themselves just to show everybody else that it's not such a crazy idea to attack the Jews. So now think about the LGBTQ trans, right, who want to ally themselves with Islamists who say, stay away from us, we'll burn you alive. Why? Why are they? It's because those trans have the same problem that Amalek had.
Yeah.
They don't want any limitation on anything.
I know.
They don't want God butting into their daily affairs. They don't want God telling them you can't harass little girls. You can't be a grown man who decides that you're going to be a woman named Stephanie.
Yeah.
And you're 45 years old, but you pretend to be 7, and you want to go and pee next to little girls in the ladies' room, right? They don't want anybody interfering with that.
Frank, you know how we know what you're saying checks out? Because it's gotten to a point where, well, two things happened. When, all these and this is something that, I can't take this too much more of this. When the so-called Israel advocacy industry comes and says, look, we have Tel Aviv, we are the LGBT capital of the world. And these people, you know what they come back with? It's Amalek. You guys are pink washing the occupation. What are they really saying? They're really saying that we know you guys are not supposed, you're not supposed to be espousing this. You're Israel. This is not supposed to be your calling card. And the second thing I would say, I forgot. It escaped me.
Can I rephrase what you just said?
Yeah.
Before I'll let you continue.
Yeah.
But basically, what they're saying is the rest of the world is saying to the Jews in Israel who think that they're part of the LGBTQ community. Okay, they're saying that you guys are LARPing. You're not real LGBTQ, because if you were, you wouldn't be able to tolerate any normal Jews.
You wouldn't be able to tolerate Jerusalem. You wouldn't be able to tolerate.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to live in proximity to them. You can't.
In the same country.
You wouldn't feel comfortable in that place. It's too close to.
You wouldn't have them as your family members. You wouldn't have the Torah people, and it wouldn't. The second thing that I noticed happened
and they're saying that what they're saying is that you might think that you're LGBTQ, but you don't understand that the Torah, you're so close to it that it's going to change you. You're not going to stay permanently.
Correct. And the second thing I noticed that happened, it's almost like I feel bad for these people. The people that thought that they were part of the movement and all that stuff, and then they tried to join, the movement, and they're like, they were basically pushed out because there's also Zionists, the ones in America. They were pushed out of LGBTQ. They were pushed out of, they were pushed out of the pink hat thing and all that stuff. Feminism, all those things. They realized that the woke are not with them. They're not with the woke. They're not with them. And they're just like, they don't know what the heck is going on. They have no home anymore. Some of them realize, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna stand with Israel, and I'm not gonna align myself with the Basically, they had their crestfallen from this whole thing, you know? They realized that these people, their own so-called people hate them.
Yeah.
So, in a way, it's good. It's a wake-up call, but it was a harsh one for a lot of them.
Yeah. So I guess like just to wrap up this point, they're both kamikaze Amalek,
Yeah.
the Islamists
Yeah.
and the LGBTQ.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
LGBT. No, yeah.
What did I say?
They'll add those letters too. LGDP.
Everything after the B is new.
Yeah. Yeah.
The letter people.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, they're also kamikaze Jew hater, Amalekites. That's what they are. So it really actually makes sense. People don't understand how much overlap there is between these two camps. They look different, but they're really the same. They're both fanatics. They're both willing to die. They both would rather die than tolerate something that limits them and their lusts. They both have world views that justify them fulfilling their sick lusts in slightly different ways. Like Muslims can do everything that the LGBTQ people can do
Yeah.
in the course of jihad.
Yeah.
So while fighting jihad, you can rape men and little children, and you can murder, kill, and you could do everything.
Even have like with animals. So, yeah.
With animals, yeah, you got to practice with animals so that you can do it. It's part of training for jihad. So you can train for jihad. You could even have gay sex while training for jihad, right? So it's really pretty much the same thing, except slightly different styles, but it's essentially the same. So much overlap. They're both Gnostic Satanists, okay? And they cannot stand any limitation on fulfilling of their their proclivities, their lusts. Okay, can you do me one favor before we end this? I just want to show you what I'm talking about. There's
that guy, Memory TV.
Stephanie. Yeah, there's a guy who was I saw this guy like 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago. He's no, a little more now, maybe 10 years. He's like as Gavin McInnes. He played a clip from this guy.
Okay.
He's like a 50-year-old dude who was married with like 4 kids, then decided that he now identifies as a 7-year-old girl named Stephanie.
I've seen this guy.
Stephanie, I think he spells it Stephanie or something like that. Like
Step on me or something?
Like it's Stephanie.
Mhm.
But he spells it in a weird way.
Let's see, is it? I just do like transgender, right? Oh no.
No, he's an ageist.
Oh, this guy. So father left his family to be a 6-year-old trans girl. This guy, this doofus.
Yeah, please show
Stephanie Wolch. Stefan Knee. What the hell? This is so bizarre. 60-year-old man. What the flip? It's like 18 minutes. Are we subjected to this all of 18 minutes?
No. Like 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Just 10 seconds. I just want people to understand the horror of the reality of this.
Yeah.
A lot of people worried about their safety because I identify as a 6-year-old. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter.
This is Stephanie Wolcht, and this is, or should I say was, Stephanie's family. However, at the age of 44, Stephanie decided to leave her family behind for something far more important, to fulfill her lifelong dream of living as a 6-year-old girl.
Why, hello. Welcome to Stephanie's Playtime. I hope my little sockets have been good. We have an adventure for you. Come on.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough.
Dude, this guy needs to be sent to like a... You know what I always say in these situations when I see this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
I say that the Soviet Union had one thing correct. These kind of people would have been sent to mental hospital. Psichushka.
That would require resources to keep them alive.
Yeah, so that's why they hate Jews so much, because those who have some level of like familiarity with Jews, and which who ultimately that identity itself is only, it only makes sense truly in the context of Torah. Torah means God, right? God as the sovereign of the world, right? Who gets involved. So God does not allow that type of lifestyle, right? And Jews who represent God are a threat to that, to people like that who want to live like that, right? Um, so that guy is one of the most Gnostic people you could ever. I don't know if he's like, I don't know how aware he is of like the spirit, this, the spiritual nature of what he's doing. Some people are fully aware, others are not. I don't know. They just kind of like go along with it. But that's Amalek, and that's why Amalek hates the Jews so much. And they would rather die than not be able to live like that. And the Jews are a direct threat to their ability to live like that. So that's what unites. That's the for anybody who's confused about the insanity that they're seeing. Like, why do like chickens for KFC? Why do these gay guys want to go and help Gaza, the Gazans who would set them on fire at the first chance? That's why. We've said all this before, but I don't think we ever got into the Amalek nature of it. Amalek, again, it's a Torah concept. It's a nation of people who they're characteristic of, they would willing to kamikaze themselves just to harm the Jews in any way, to kill them, maim them, weaken them, humiliate them, damage them in any way. They would literally sacrifice their lives for that, because the Jews represent limitations on them fulfilling their personal lusts. Can I read something that Alex Ely, our one listener, right? He's been with us from the beginning, right? He wrote something. So I wrote him a thing a while ago where I said, I'm giving you a Willy Wonka ticket to come on a show, right? And he's like, that's crazy. He goes, why did you use that term Willy Wonka? Because because he was surprised by that, because that's the term that he used in a comment that he made on one of our episodes a couple of years ago, and it remained with me. Like, I remember a lot of the stuff that he says, like the potato thing, right? And so he's like, he was stunned that I remembered that. Like, he didn't understand that I based that comment off of his comment. Like, he was surprised. So I just wanted to say, it'd be nice to have him on. And even though it's Memorial Day, and thank God he's still with us, he is a veteran. He's a Marine. So I think it would be appropriate to have him on for that reason alone.
Yeah.
And he wrote something very interesting. He wrote, Ephraim Palmanov just put out a new shiur on the sabbaticals, the big Shmitot.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, again, a new one?
It was an episode that it was just entirely dedicated to.
The Cosmic Jubilee. Wow.
Cosmic, right. So listen to what Alex writes. He goes, Ephraim Palmanov just put out a new shiur. That means a lesson in Hebrew. He goes, you guys talk about it on your episodes all the time. And all I have to do is wait a little bit to watch it manifest in the world somewhere.
Yep. Correct.
Except that when somebody else, we say it, we talk about it all the time, then all of a sudden some Johnny come lately comes and makes a big shiur about it. He's all popular and Roseanne loves him and not us.
Correct. Yeah.
Why, Roseanne?
Roseanne likes us stuff.
I'm just kidding, Roseanne. We love you.
Yeah. Story of my life, man.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Is this year the new Jubilee year? Is this
We
is this it?
don't
This is number 50?
we don't
It
know
was
what
last year.
It was
what,
last year.
how do
I
you
believe
know,
so,
Frank?
yeah.
How do you know, Frank?
So it says in
Oh,
the-
you're muted. How do you know, Frank? I'll be that guy.
I just remember from listening to lectures that no, it's not the Jubilee. It was
No, the Shemitah year was 2022.
seventh. It was a seventh.
Yeah, 2 years,
Shemitah was
ago was
2022.
Shemitah.
Yeah, but I don't think it was the Jubilee. I'm not sure if it was a.
We don't know.
Can
the
Greg
Jubilees.
find out?
We don't know the Jubilee years.
What is
Every
it?
time I think Jubilee,
Hello?
I think South Park.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. I was just saying we don't know the Jubilee years.
How could that be possible? How can we not know the Jubilee?
We don't know. We don't know. They say we don't know. Here, when is the next Jubilee year?
Write Yovel. Don't write Jubilee. Write Yovel.
Yovel.
Yovel in Hebrew. Yeah.
Chabad.org.
Wait, I started listening
It
to.
says Yovel is not currently observed in the Jewish calendar because it is only observed when the Jewish people dwell in the land of Israel according to their tribes.
Yeah, but we know when it is.
Yovel is okay. 1 second.
Dude, if you know the Shemitah year, then you know
the Shemitah year. The last Shemitah year was 2022. I mean, according to the
right. So seven Shemitah, 7 sabbaticals in a row is a Jubilee.
Is a Jubilee year, but we don't know when the actual. You know what I mean? Like, when did it start? We don't know. What is it called? We don't know. Because of course it's based on when you're supposed to cancel the debts and all that kind of thing. We don't know when it started.
Well, we know the calendar started in 3,337 years ago in
Correct.
Nisan. That was the
Correct.
first time. So we could just count from the first year,
Yeah.
7. You know what I mean? Like we know when the Jubilee is.
Yeah.
We're not observing it because we need a temple.
So it says here that this is I guess Or Sameach website. So they asked like, when is the Jubilee
I'm
year?
on the same website, yeah.
So it says the Torah commands us, dear Larry and whoever, the Torah commands us to allow the land of Israel to lie fallow every 7th year. This is known as Shemitah year. After 7 Shemitah years, it's the 50th Yovel year, in Hebrew called Yovel, Jubilee year. The Torah commands us that the land lie fallow during Yovel as well. Today, we are not required by the Torah to observe Yovel. The Torah says that the Yovel only applies when the Jewish people dwell in the land of Israel according to the tribes. Ever since the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and half of Menashe were exiled, which is 600 BCE, Yovel has no longer been applicable. Therefore, even the Torah observant Jews do not observe Yovel. When is the next one? So here goes. Maimonides, based on historical calculations, writes, according to this calculation, this year, which is the 1107th year from the destruction of the temple, and the year 4936 from creation, is the 21st year in the Yovel cycle. Since today, so he's writing this 5758 from creation, the next Yovel would be 7 years from now. But the Rambam himself writes those calculations are not conclusive. So basically, it's kind of a little bit wishy-washy. So you would say, according to this, the year 65 was a Yovel year. So then just add 50 to that. So he says 5758, the next Yovel will be 7 years from now. So 5758 plus 7.
5815.
Hold on 1 second. 5758 plus 7. This is 5765 plus plus 50. Oops.
30 years.
Yeah, it would be at 5815 would be the next Yovel year. Yeah. So we're not. Yeah.
It really, just a dream, because you know what that means, folks? Like that would be well after Mashiach comes, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know why you just laughed, but I'm not gonna hold it. I'm not gonna.
No, I didn't laugh. I just,
I'm not gonna murder you.
It's an uncomfortable laugh.
So, well after Mashiach comes, and what happens is in the 50th year, traditionally, right? If people, because of circumstances, right, had to lease out their property. Let me back up for a second. Every single Jewish family was given a plot of land in the land of Israel, a permanent plot of family land that is theirs eternally, given by God, right? So sometimes they had to lease their land because they couldn't do anything with it, or crops wouldn't grow on it, and they gave it to somebody else, and then somebody else was a better farmer, and they, somebody richer, somebody more successful, and they had to lease their land, or they had to, temporarily give the land to that person, and just to kind of get by, whatever. There's circumstances in which people were not able to live on their ancestral land, right? But every 50th year, every jubilee, that land returns to them, no matter what contracts were in play, right? It automatically nullifies all human contracts, human made, and the land goes back to the family. Okay. So it would just be amazing. Have you ever been curious, like, where your family plot is in Israel? Like, you ever thought about that? Like, where in Israel is my land? Like, where is God going to put me permanently to live? I've been thinking about that recently. It'd just be amazing to have your own piece of land. It can't be taxed. It's just yours. You can't, if no federal agents can come there, and it's just, can you imagine? Can you imagine that? Having a piece of land that cannot be challenged, that's your permanent home. Can you imagine that? I can't, it's hard for me to imagine that, because first of all, since I've been married, I moved 11 times. I've been renting. I grew up, my parents rented the apartment that I grew up in, even though they owned two houses, like in different places, which didn't make any sense to me. It made sense to me. It makes sense to me now because my parents grew up in communist Russia, and cities, in apartment buildings, not too different from the one that I grew up in Brooklyn. Okay. Obviously a little bit smaller and not as comfortable. And they lived, and my grandparents also lived in that building. So my grandparents took care of me while my parents worked. So it made some practical sense, but it just, it just didn't make sense to me, because if you have a house, live in the house, right? I thought, like, wow, that house that my parents owned, which they rented out, it was like a business thing to them, right? It had like a little backyard where I could put like a basketball hoop. I'm like, I live on the fourth floor in a two freaking bedroom apartment, right? And I'm sitting, like, imagine like having a little backyard to play with, to throw a basketball, or just to kind of like, you have your own house. It seemed like a dream to me. It's like having a locker and when you're a Brooklyn kid, you're watching like movies of kids like in the suburbs who go to school and they have their own locker. I'm like, we don't have that in Brooklyn. That's just not a thing that you have in an inner city. So it just kind of seemed like just the simple notion of having your own house and your own piece of land that you can't be threatened off of. I mean, you don't live with this constant tension. Like, if I don't come up with the bills, I have no place to live. Like, this is owned by someone else. And if I don't, I have to follow their rules. And if I'm off on one payment, right, they're going to throw me out. Like, can you imagine not having to live like that? I can't. So it's nice to think about it. To have a piece of land where that's permanent, that's yours, is like a dream, especially for a Jew.
Yes. I was just saying today that Jerusalem Day represents not only getting back, at least a good portion of the old city of Jerusalem, but also, we captured, and we also did not annex, but we at least captured Judea and Samaria, where today I think 650 or 700,000 Jews live. They're citizens of Israel. Again, I mentioned the vineyards and all the prophecies that are being fulfilled. Again, these are like, for me, it's very bittersweet because, we didn't annex it and we gave back the Temple Mount. There's all these things that were like stupid, right? A lot of things were stupid, but at the end of the day, despite the stupidity, Jews on the ground have made a lot of progress. And we're growing and we're growing and we're growing. The biggest demographic in Israel today is what's called the Dati Leumi sector. Besides the Haredi, besides the people, with the black hats, is the religious Zionist sector. Also, 5, 6, 7 kids per family. Thank God. And people that are living that in the way that Jews are supposed to live, not in ginormous metropolis, but like in more rural on the land, spread out. And people are. It's funny. My friend was telling me. My friend who grew up in Israel. His father was giving. His father is a famous tour guide there, and archaeologist. So his father was giving a tour to these like the Orthodox Jews from like Flatbush, or non-Orthodox Jews, and he took him like to some vineyards or somewhere with agriculture, and this lady kept asking. She goes, so how do you deal with the problem of Shemitah? And he goes, well, we don't see it as a problem. We see it as an opportunity. Like we see it as a mitzvah. What did she mean by problem of Shemitah? Because Shemitah implies, what's the problem? Especially for winemakers, right? They're losing an entire year of vintage that they can't bottle and sell to America. So they have to deal with the problem, right? And it is true, they kind of do have to, they figured out ways how to quote unquote deal with the problem, right? They produce, certain vintage and they figure it out how to deal with it. But this lady kept asking, but she's like, but you don't get what I'm asking. How do you deal with the problem of Shemitah? And the guy kept answering, you don't get what I'm saying. It's not a problem. It's God. God's a problem to you? The person is in Flatbush. It's not in Israel.
I think she's looking for the thumb.
Or you're the thumb, or she just, no, but she sees it as a problem because you're losing money. You can't harvest. You can't do what Goyim do, okay? It's a problem. To her, it's a problem because she's in America. She doesn't have to do Shemitah. She can harvest till the cows come home. In Israel, you got to buy fruits and vegetables. You got to make sure actually that the person, behind on their wall, there's a certification. This stuff is not Shemitah fruits and vegetables, or it's stuff that I'm taking from a farmer that keeps Shemitah and he has all kinds of, there's halachic workarounds. Rav Kook, again, back to Rav Kook, he installed certain things because whatever. There was a problem actually in Israel. Speaking of problems, there was called a tzena. It was like a shortage. There was like literally a famine when they were building the state. So he had to install these things where you literally sell your land technically to a non-Jew, so the non-Jew works the land and then you can at least eat the stuff, right? You can't profit from it. It's called heter mihira, right? It's a whole halacha behind it. Or some people just don't even eat fruit in the Shemitah year, fruits and vegetables. They'll buy fruits and vegetables brought in from other countries if you're in Israel. So she just kept asking a question. The problem? It's like, it's not a problem. It's the Torah. Is Hashem a problem to you?
Folks, Greg hates American religious Jewish women. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, I don't hate anybody. I just think, I have a friend, speaking of the same friend,
Just kidding.
No. I want to tell you something funny actually. He had a daughter, Baruch Hashem, baby girl today, and he named the girl, I've never heard this name ever, but it comes from a verse somewhere in, I think in Prophets, Tidhar Sophia. Not Sophia, Sophia. Her second
It's
name
really
is
actually, in reality, it's Sophia. There's no the tzadi.
No. It's Sophia. It's a Hebrew girl's name, watcher or guardian. So Sophia.
Dude, there's no tse sound in real Hebrew.
Okay.
That's modern Hebrew.
Okay.
Tzadi is it's an actual S sound. That's all I'm saying. Continue.
Bekitzer, the point is, her name is Tidhar. So our friend who's like from Flatbush, why did you give her this name? Now she has to explain to people, American Jews that come, or even American Jews in Israel. Blah, blah. And my friend who grew up in the old city and who now lives in a place called Pnei Kedem, which is near, it's Gush Etzion, basically, near Efrat. He's just like, I don't give a shit. I live in Israel, okay? We have names like, El Roi, God sees. I don't know if you remember this guy, Eric. There was a guy, Israeli guy, who came with all the El Roi
I
Shalev.
remember him.
Okay,
Yes.
God
Biblical names,
sees.
Hebrew scripture names. Yeah.
Like you know,
El Kana, jealous
yeah,
God.
Elkanah. Yeah. Like there's people named Elkanah. People in the settlements they name their kids after like they literally name their kids after
I'm
psukim.
just saying El Kana, just to
Yeah,
kind of remember that he's still a captive.
yeah. There's a town called Elkanah. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, welcome to Israel. Like there's people named Nadav. Okay, from Nadav and Avihu.
Yeah.
There's secular people named Nadav.
Yeah. Can I tell you about somebody named Dumisani?
Yes, the black guy.
Dumisani, Washington.
Washington, yeah.
Is this account? I'm not really that familiar with him, but sometimes I just in the twits, I do the search. I write Zelenko to see who writes about my brother or whatever, right? So
Interesting.
So he posted something today.
Huh.
So he said, so today I learned that before Stu Peters publicly went all in with his Nazi level racism and Jew hatred, he was a friend and colleague of Dr. Vladimir Zelenko of blessed memory, a very proud Orthodox Jewish man, an Israeli citizen. He was not an Israeli citizen, who saved many lives during COVID.
Yeah.
This is an age-old pattern of evil that started in the Bible. Benefit from the Jews, then turn on the Jews.
Yeah.
And then he writes the verse from Shmos, from the book of Exodus. And there arose a new king in Egypt who knew not Joseph, right?
Yeah.
So then he posts something from Stu Peters. I don't know when he wrote this. I don't know if it's recent, but Stu was writing, Dr. Zelenko was fighting to save thousands of lives in upstate New York while murderers were killing patients with remdesivir and vents. Z-Stack protocol, whatever. He's just, it might be an old post from Stu Peters because I kind of scrolled on his page and I didn't see this post. So it's probably just like something that he posted a long time ago. The reason I was looking at Stu Peters' page is because I wanted to curse him out. I'm always looking for an opportunity to call Stu Peters a fag and a sleazeball and just something. I thought this was one of them, but I couldn't find that post. Anyway, I was just surprised that he
That's
that
really
he wrote
cool.
about that.
That's really cool. I just this is
He's a
bizarre
bishop
language.
from San Francisco, Dumisani, Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting. The Congregation of Zion.org.
Yes. It's fascinating stuff.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
Moving stuff.
Very tired.
So it's
All right, gentlemen.
dude, here's the last thing. Adam King, right?
Yes.
Adam King is Awesome Jew on Twitter.
Yes, he admitted this.
That's insane.
Yes.
Because he got no visibility as Adam King, and he got an unusual amount of visibility as Awesome Jew.
So we should change. We should become anonymous Jews, and we will rule the interwebs.
Yeah, sure. Especially with Qatar owning the internet with bot armies, I'm sure. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. The only thing I'm going to say about UFOs, I'm just going to say that Eric, the son of a bitch, is laughing at me.
There's no laughing.
No, we just we think it's funny that we have to always give it's like I want to give a shout out to my UFO homie,
My peeps up there.
My peeps up there in the alternate parallel universe.
In the ether.
Yes.
No, but they say what's the word? I forget. No, I was just saying that when we introduce these, this topic, we say, so UFOs, huh?
Yes.
We used to say that all the time. But I'm just going to say that there seems to be some progress in terms of actually manifesting them, like on a like regular basis, meaning like and I'm not going to talk about it. The best thing I could tell you, anybody's interested in that, is to watch Jesse Michaels' last episode, American Alchemy. Can we play just the preview of it, just to kind of like, if you play like the first 30 seconds, you basically get a summary of the whole couple hours. It's stunning, absolutely stunning. We can end off on that. This is habeas corpus.
This is Meet the Startup Summoning UFOs. This one, Skywatcher interview.
Yeah. Basically tell you everything going on in the first minute.
Yeah. Except for this ad, which is killing me greatly.
I'm not gonna give them money.
Skywatcher truly is a technology company that was started because of UAP.
After we turn on the dog whistle, UAPs literally come to us day after day.
Jordan, our sonic lead, came up to me and Alex like, hey, tomorrow we're going to see, a conflict in the sky. We're going to have different UAPs are going to come in, and there's going to be...
He sensed that.
He said that.
Whoa.
We're seeing multiple classes, 3 classes today. We saw them all with binoculars and or the naked eye, which is really new for us. We've not had that experience in the last 5 years.
These days, since our technology platforms are so high to generate effects they could mimic, and our detection platforms are so well advanced so we could see a lot more, then it really is a zoo of options and possibilities.
We have 3 spectrums, and we see them on radar. Then we get in a helicopter and go chase them, and they evade us, right? But they evade us because the ground can see them evading. From the air, we've never laid eyes on them, right? We're sitting there with binoculars, sitting there with S-Wear cameras. The reason why the electro-optical can see them cannot is because that little bit of extra is where they're actually emitting light. I think the government's conflicted right now. I think they have advanced secret physics and knowledge and science.
I agree with you.
That they've had probably since at least the end of World War II.
You know that there's physics knowledge held by aerospace companies that is not
There
known.
certainly is materials knowledge.
Materials, well, okay, material
Which
science.
involves topological physics or whatever.
What I think a lot of people expect in this subject is for everything to tie together so neatly and perfectly. It's like the things you're seeing in the sky are the things that we have on the ground, are the secret science things, is the consciousness stuff, and it all fits together in this neat thing. And then also space aliens, and they're from Zeta Reticuli, and you're like, oh, it's easy. And in fact, all of those things could be their own disparate threads.
The skies are not classified, and we are seeing things in the skies. Those things seem to be there all the time. Mid-turn, before he could actually turn it to the UAP, the UAP hit us with an energy weapon.
Whoa.
Fascinating.
Okay, that's it. So that was like the preview. That basically, so I mean, again, if this is real, then that's progress, and that's the habeas corpus alley for you, Greg.
Yeah, I'll watch it.
It's nice to see Eric Weinstein in these things.
Yeah. Not that I'm into reputable people or things, but yeah.
Well, him and Brett, his brother, also another. I have mixed feelings about him too, but they're brilliant dudes.
Yeah.
I heard Eric say stuff about scientists who, were not part of the priesthood, the academic priesthood, right? Who just produce stuff and then they tried it, as they went, meaning they didn't need double-blind studies in order to use something to apply it for actual human benefit.
Yeah.
So when I heard him say that, I was like, oh, he'd probably like my brother, at least in the COVID context. So I don't know.
Yeah.
he seems Jewish,
Yeah.
Eric Weinstein, but kind of like in the Yiddish theater cultural kind of Jewish thing. I'm not really sure where he's holding with the whole but the UAP thing might be really, really good for him. See, this is we'll end off on this point if you don't mind. A guy like that he could seriously benefit from the Marshmallow Man, right? Because he probably sees himself as an atheist, right? But if he were to understand the full, you know, the spiritual nature of what's going on in terms of physics beyond which we understand, right? Which is what spirituality is, right? He'll understand that what he's seeing is what the Torah is describing. Like he'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Plus his buddy Jesse Michaels. Yeah, we got to learn how to say his name, right?
Yeah.
He is more prone to the spiritual nature of this. Like he's open to that, to the consciousness part of it. So I think it's important. I mean, this is obviously, you see, it's unraveling, it's developing, and here's your habeas corpus. It'd be cool to get out there and kind of like in person, but I think it's kind of like it's not open to the public. Like they invite people there who are like professors or like professionals or experts or somebody. But I don't think like just anybody from the public can go to this place where they use the dog whistle. Like they mentioned this piece of equipment that they have nicknamed the dog whistle. It's a piece of equipment that they use to call UFO, to call these UAP things.
Interesting.
Yes.
I'll check it out. I shall check it out.
All right, y'all.
Looks fascinating. And then yeah, we should watch the Jubilee thing by Rabbi Pavlanov.
I watched most of it, and we've spoken
yeah?
about like 95% of what he we've spoken about it many, many times.
Yeah.
Right. Most of what he brings up, but it's a kind of, it could be a good primer for people.
For sure. Highly recommended.
Yeah. Also
right.
listen to Rabbi Kessen's latest lecture where he explains he explains Torah meditation and its purpose. Very interesting.
Let's see. Yes, Jewish spiritual dimensions in the
It's
Messianic
actually
era.
it's a lecture from the 90s. He sounds so young.
Yeah.
Sounds like a kid compared to the way he sounds now.
Yeah. Yeah, Jewish spiritual dimensions in the Messianic era. It's a in-depth exploration of nature of prophecy, divine inspiration, and spiritual states that were available in biblical times and will be prevalent during Messianic times. Interesting. Interesting that he's getting into this. I need to call him in general.
Yeah.
And ask him about stuff. What he thinks of things and stuff.
Just don't talk to him about UFOs. He's not ready.
No. That yeah. Yeah, no. The last time we there was one time we tried to speak to him about UFOs. He's like,
you.
I think no. You were on the. We were interviewing him.
No, we were interviewing him. You brought up UFOs.
I brought it up, and then he's like,
I threw you under the bus because I got nervous.
No, well then I didn't even. That part I actually don't remember. But he said, I think you gentlemen have seen one too many movies. He's like,
yeah,
one too many movies.
And it didn't work. See, I tried to throw you under the bus, and he still lumped me in with you crazy UFO people.
Ay. Yeah, that was like, yeah.
That was a good interview, though. That was good.
Yeah, thank God.
It's so funny because like the next lesson that he released, he talked about like the Torah descriptions of what it's going to be like when Mashiach comes. He's going to be like, all of a sudden angels appear, like infinite angels appear everywhere, and all. And I'm like,
hello. He's not making the connection. He's not making the connection. Yeah. What's harder, to get Rabbi Kessin to look at UFOs or get those people to look at Torah codes? What's harder? It's Eric, any last words? Not those kind of last words, but for this program.
No, I was thinking McFly.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Oh.
Bro,
okay.
this this podcast is single-handedly keeping Fantasia alive. And the childlike princess, we're keeping her in existence, and then everybody else can still benefit from it and take the credit for for
correct. It's like the never-ending story.
It's the never-ending story.
We're literally writing the never-ending story,
exactly.
and then whatever. Yeah. All right, folks.
Thank you,
Eric. Thank you. Your contribution was
wow. Next time
there'll be more walking.
When it's not 1 a.m. Sure.
Sure. Yes, B'ezrat Hashem. All right,
Gentlemen,
we shall speak again.
Adieu.
Out of.
Adios.